Greetings and salutations, friends, and welcome back to the ArchCast, where today we have a guest who's been doing a bit of model manufacturing and designing with inspiration taken from a specific 28 millimeter model Wargame.
Hi, everyone. Is this the part where I introduce myself?
Presumably, yes. I
All
hope
right,
so.
okay. So I'm Tsipis. That's very hard to pronounce if you're not Greek, I suppose, because it's with a TS. So should I say my name, Arch? I don't know. Will I get ganked after this?
Will you dox yourself live on air? I would recommend against it normally.
All right, then I won't say then. Although you can probably find it if you put your mind to it. Anyway, yeah, that's my nickname, I suppose. And I run Across the Realms, which is I suppose, a Patreon page. But I'd say mostly a My Factory um, account, I suppose you'd call it. And yeah, I'm making miniatures and 3D printing them.
So you've got a campaign going here, which we've got in the background. When did this campaign start again?
It started yesterday, actually, but I've had the miniatures hanging for over a year now. I've actually been playing in my local gaming store with those miniatures, and at some point I decided that I have to share them with the world.
That's what I thought. I thought you mentioned that they'd be out the day before we'd do the ArchCast, which means you've had some tremendous success already. Then it's been up for a day, and you've raised $16,000 already. Clearly, people are interested in sexy female, not at all Imperial Guardsmen.
Yeah, unlike what you hear from the media, people actually do like women.
Well, I don't know about that. I maintain that women are universally evil, but there are
Yeah, yeah,
apparently some that disagree with this otherwise very reasonable estimate.
yeah. There seems to be a lot of people who disagree. Yeah, but they don't seem to be customers anyway, so they're entitled to their opinion. And I don't really care about that.
Well, we could expand this into the. There's a lot of interesting things to discuss on this particular topic of sexy female miniatures because this was accepted as just common, everyday, undisputable gospel just a few years ago. Sex sells was the uncontroversial statement of anything ever. Music, TV, anime, models, you name it, comics.
Yeah, and the particular crowd that protests against this miniature, not to delve into the controversial part of the conversation very quickly, but the very crowd that usually objects to these miniatures, to this aesthetic, they don't seem to care much about uh, sex work or stuff like that. They don't seem to be on that side of the aisle. So it's a bit perplexing how they they seem to have two contradicting opinions about the looks of women, let's say.
Well, seeing as it is also usually forwarded by what could charitably be described as ham beasts, one might be able to infer why they are not fond of this particular style.
Yeah, yeah, I get you there. Yeah, yeah,
But so let's before we get into the controversial side, as you mentioned,
yeah, which will be the juicy part, I suppose.
probably. So
Yeah,
you're making these for again for legalistic reasons on YouTube. No tabletop war game in particular, but they are 28
exactly.
millimeter models.
Well, I suppose you could play bolt action with them.
You could.
No, nobody would protest, I think.
Nobody's going to stop you. At least not outright.
Yeah, I mean,
But
you could treat those. I think I can call them las guns. I mean, they're from Dune, right? Las guns. But nobody's gonna mind if you use las guns as M1 Garants, for example.
I'm pretty sure the word lasgun. I I don't know if there's any original thing there because when you're getting back to that kind of era of science fiction, God only knows who they brought inspiration from. But I am 98% sure that there are lasguns in Dune.
Yes.
Yeah, they are. They are. They are.
In fact,
Yeah.
I think that was where Warhammer got its inspiration. Like, that's where the God Emperor comes from, and a bunch of other things. That's where the Navigator Guilds come from.
Well, not Warhammer 40k. You fucking fool. Slap him down. Abuse him.
Look at this little 40k simp. Even after all GW does, he still simps.
Well, that is the thing, though. Like, 40k did take a lot of inspiration from, well, a lot of things. Aliens was another huge inspiration. Dune was another one, absolutely. And the whole God Emperor thing, too. I mean, that, you can't say that Dune invented that either. Because the thing is, every science fiction setting ever is inspired by God only knows how many other things. So, saying that Lasguns is from Dune, I don't know. But they definitely are in Dune.
Yeah, that was my point. We're just trying to swerve away from a particular company, I suppose.
Yes.
But
Because,
having said all that, I don't think we're doing a very good job. But who cares?
I think it's too late. Okay, so these are 3D printable miniatures, aren't they?
That's right, yeah.
There's another very interesting topic as well, 3D printing of miniatures. Because, of course, now 3D printers are, well, they haven't quite, how do I put it? They haven't quite fulfilled the promise, shall we say? Because to begin with, I remember when 3D printers first came out, the idea was that within like 5 or 6 years, maybe 10, they would be super affordable. Everyone could have one. The materials they used would be readily available, etc. Hasn't really happened. They're still fairly expensive. They're still fairly bulky. But they've come a long way to the point that now it is not inconceivable that maybe the promise will be fulfilled in another maybe 10 years.
I'd say sooner than that, actually. Say a lot sooner than that. I mean, they're definitely not your standard hobby appliance that you want to have at your home. Definitely not. I mean, you have to have some kind of space that is dedicated to that. You need ventilation. You need children off the area that is operating the printer, because the resin is very toxic. You need gloves and some kind of mask when you're operating near the printer. Although, to be honest, I never do that. Although I should probably be doing that. I know that some people are a lot more sensitive in their skin when the resin touches their skin. They tend to get pretty bad rashes.
Ooh.
So they're definitely not very friendly for any home. Definitely not. But I wouldn't say that they are very expensive. I mean, you can get a decent 3D printer for $350.
Yep, that's true. You do have to be careful of those fumes, though, because that's not very
Yeah,
healthy.
that's really nasty. That's really there have been days. I mean, I have a pretty large workshop here, but I very often have all the doors and all the windows closed because it's very hot outside, and I have had days where I lost entire days due to the fumes causing headaches. So yeah, it's definitely not something you want to use. Like you should treat it like you treated, I suppose, a microwave back in the 90s when people were afraid of microwaves. But actually, no, it's far worse than that because you get the toxic resin as well. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're hobbyists, right? I mean, the workshop of a hobbyist usually has tools and glues and stuff like that that are not entirely safe. I mean, super glue is not entirely safe. It's nowhere near as problematic as resin, as a UV resin, but we have all those uh, knives and stuff like that to cut. I mean, all these things are not things that you want to have in an area that is, let's say, part of your family home, let's say. So I see a 3D printer as a bit of a bulky hobby equipment that you're going to get a lot of work out of, right? Because you're literally going to be pumping miniatures out of it,
well,
and
there's
you're going to
the
save a lot of money in the process.
there's the big long-term argument, of course, that this is a much more affordable way of producing miniatures. And when we return to the price, like, I would perhaps argue that the 350 ones are I don't know. Like, I'd probably, if I was going to get a 3D printer, I'd go for a bit more of a mid to high grade one, simply because you got to view it as an investment at
Hmm.
that point. Because once you get one of these, you got to use it, You're kind of obligating yourself to use it. The
Yeah, yeah.
material's not super cheap either. And you got to put a bit of time into learning the printer itself, because it would be ideal if 3D printing was so simple that you just put in the blueprint and voila, there it is. And in some cases it can be, but in many cases you do need to do a little bit of experimentation to get the mold lines, well, not mold lines, but the
The
various little
supports.
garbage pieces on it,
Yeah, yeah.
etc.,
Yeah,
clean and pretty looking.
there is a steep learning curve. Let's not sway away from that. I mean, and that's probably one of the reasons why I would recommend at least, people get a cheap one first. It's like, like the first time you drive, you don't, when you first get your license to drive, you don't drive a nice car. You drive a piece of shit, really, because you're going to do some damage to it eventually. And that's the same case, pretty much the same case with a printer. I mean, the first time you're going to use a printer, there are things that you will have to learn, and you'll have to learn the hard way,
Yep,
because
like any
you can.
hobby.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you can go to forums, you can ask people, they will tell you very detailed, they will give you very detailed instructions as to how to print, how to properly print. Most of that stuff, when you first get a printer, you'll have no idea what they're talking about. You will have to experience it firsthand. So, uh, and the other thing is that apart from the resin, there are also a few other parts that are going to be, they're essentially consumables. So things like well, it's going to be a bit technical here, but people who know 3D printing, it's the FEP, which is the plastic. It's a plastic transparent uh, film, essentially, that's on the bottom of your resin tray. That thing, I tore through mine the first day I got my printer, because I had no idea it was soft, and I tried to remove some of the resin, and I used a metal tool, and there it went. So, and then I had to wait 2 weeks for a replacement to arrive. So, things like that are going to happen. So you don't want to mess your nice printer with this kind of sloppy things.
It is definitely a yeah, it's technology that's on the up and up. I think it will
Yeah,
arrive
yeah.
at a very useful state in not too long. It's like right now it is still requires a fair bit of expertise, but that too is bugs, I suspect, that will be worked out over time.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I recently opened up I have a Sony Mini 4K, which is a half decent printer. So actually, it's a very good printer. But it's on the cheaper side. And I opened it up, and I was astonished to see how few things were inside the printer. So I don't see why there's probably still a margin to reduce the prices.
Oh, there absolutely is. There's no doubt about it. Like, eventually, my hope is that this will arrive at the level of a simple home appliance, basically, that people just have.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't think it will ever get to the point. Actually, no, I shouldn't say that, because technology changes. I mean, we already have. What I was going to say is that there are resins. The resin is toxic, right? But there are some resins out in the market that are less so. Not uh, completely safe, but definitely less so. The water washable resin. So I suppose if in the future there were some resins that were entirely non-toxic, that could be a big change in how the market reacts to the printers. Yeah.
Well, I mean, cleaning fluids is toxic.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah. They have to.
There's a
They have to
yeah,
be
there's a ton
toxic.
of
Yeah.
stuff in your house already that is toxic. It's
Yeah,
just
yeah.
it's getting used to using it, having clear appliances, having clear gills, having instructions,
Mm.
etc. Like,
Yeah, that's true. That's
all of
true.
this
That's a good point.
can be fixed and ordered, etc. Like, I don't think it's necessarily that big of an issue.
You can even
And
vent
it will.
the air out the back of the printer with like create a little vent, and you can actually do that because I've seen some people do that as well to deal with the
Mm.
fumes
Yeah, some
out a
people do that,
window.
yeah. And some
Oh,
printers
yeah.
have that built in.
Yes, the printers we're using for the family business, we've got 7 of them now, making parts for our robotic tool changes. They're completely standalone systems. They do all of the venting, the fuming, etc., all of that on itself. It's just a box. We tell it to do a thing, and then it does a thing, and we need not worry about anything. Now, those are fairly high-end printers, so perhaps not for common consumer usage.
Have you
But
tried printing
price.
miniatures on them?
No, because I haven't been bothered, honestly. But the stuff we print in them is pretty small scale and detailed, so I don't think it would be an issue.
You want to try it?
But at the end of the day, price is literally just technology and demand catching up to availability. So the more printers will be on the market, the more people will be making them, the more advanced they'll be, and the larger the usage area of them, the cheaper they'll be too.
Yeah, there's also the case about who the customer is, right? Because people who play D&D, for example, a lot of people who play RPGs, they want to print miniatures, but they don't get so much out of their printer because, how many miniatures are you going to use? How many goblins do you need? You need 5, 6. But people who play war games, you need 120 boys if you're playing orcs.
Wow. It's interesting you bring that point up because that allows us to segue over to another completely unrelated topic, of course. I'll send you a link here, Kyle, to a Games Workshop page, which is a completely unknown competitor of yours, of course.
Oh, okay, I don't know them.
No,
check.
like it's they're fairly
They're
unknown,
new,
as mentioned.
right?
Space Marines Honored of the Chapter. That is let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 models. Some of them are more like specialized than others. You've got some details. That is £90 for that unit right there.
Fuck that. That's a tank of gas, a little less than.
What is that in USD? 110, 120?
Yeah, about. That's absurd.
It's a lot of money for not a whole lot of miniatures. Now, of course, this is a bit of a special command squad again, so it allows GW to rack up the price a pinch more.
Even in actuality, it should be the same, but whatever.
In reality, you wouldn't have to print all that many squads before you've basically paid for your 3D printer. And this isn't even the top of the iceberg, of course. We could talk about, knights and titans and etc.
And more overpriced things.
Actually, the smaller miniatures are the ones where you get your money back mostly. One of the worst offenders that I've found. I happen to play Warhammer 40K. I just remembered. One of the worst offenders that I found is which is definitely not the worst in the entire collection, but it's a Scions from I'm gonna say the Imperial Guard. The kit, how much is the box of 5? I think it's 45 quid or 45 euros, whatever it is.
Let's see. Tempestus Scions are £26 for a box of 5.
Okay, so that's 35 euros probably.
I'll send that to you.
So that has, I think, correct me someone in the chat if I'm wrong, but I think that has one special weapon of each in that kit. So anybody who knows Warhammer, you know that you're going to be using a group of 10 with 4 plasma guns or 4 melta guns, 4 hotshot volley guns, whatever. That means that if you want to have 2 squads of full plasma gun Scions, you're going to be getting 8 kits just to get the plasma guns, because you have no other way of getting the plasma guns. So one of the ways that 3D printing is creeping in is by allowing people to have those plasma guns without having to buy the entire kit.
Yes, because there's another thing too. Back in ye olde yesteryears, GW used to have a service called like mail order goblins or something like that.
Right. Yeah, I remember that.
where you could literally just send them an email and say like, hey, I'd like X amount of this head, Y amounts of this arm, I want these and these weapons, and they'd just ship out the bits to you, allowing you to customize your entire army just exactly like you wanted. This was a fantastic thing for the customer, of course, but not quite so good for the company. And so recently they've figured out that what they could do instead was simply put in the stuff they know people need into specific larger boxes, so that you'd have to buy multiple boxes to get the requisite number of special heavy weapons that you want to fill out a squad, for example.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's a publicly traded company that I mean, I've had this conversation with friends over and over again. What would you do if you were, well, not even the CEO, if you were a board member, if you knew that, it's so easy to just increase your revenue
You'd
because
probably
people
do
seem
it.
to buy them. I mean, why not do it? I mean, they people don't seem to complain properly, and by properly I mean voting with their dollars.
Yep, because people are
Well,
incredibly lazy.
Yeah, they still buy the
there's the
thing.
thing
So
too. This is a hobby. Like, people are used to spending money on their hobby. They're willing to spend money on their hobby. And in the case of 40K, it has a very devout fandom because it's been around for ages. And to be fair, too, it has been a very good hobby for ages as well.
oh yeah,
But
absolutely.
slowly over time, the company realizes more and more that it can get away with more and more. Until after, what, 35, 36, 37 years or something of 40K, we arrive at this point where we're beginning to scratch the limits of corporate greed.
Right. I'm not sure that we can call it corporate greed because I I'll try to to defend GW here just a bit, and say this that the people who have vested interests in GW, the stockholders, uh, they might have mortgages, so it's not that they're forcing anybody. They're raising their prices, yes. They're doing shady things, not just with how they choose uh, to 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 have the individual boxes with individual miniatures that people need, but also with the rules, right? Let's not forget the rules. The things they do with the rules to push certain models. I mean, that's blatant, right? They don't force anybody though. They're just testing how far they can go, and they don't hear a beep, so they keep going.
Well,
Goodness,
yeah,
the fandom is at fault.
oh, the fandom is always at fault inherently. Like in any abusive business practice, at the end of the day, it is the consumer that is at fault for allowing the business practice to continue. But that doesn't mean that the company is devoid of responsibility either.
No, no, I suppose not. No, I'm just trying to see things from their perspective. I mean, if I were sitting in a stockholders meeting, even if I play Warhammer, I'm not sure how I would see things, because if the CEO told us that we can increase our revenue by 10% by doing this, uh, what do you do?
And you'd probably just do it, honestly.
Yeah,
Nice and simple.
and
And
if it happens that people turn away, in the next stockholder meetings, things are going to change because the stockholders are going to demand a change of policy, right?
then you don't do it. And there are instances of GW trying a thing, pushing a bit too far, getting the backlash, and then changing their tune. This was it the last edition or the previous one, where they released a Mechanicus detail. This was when they had battle formations. I forget the exact name.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the Mechanicus had a formation that essentially gave them 2,500 or something points worth of stuff. But there was a special rule that meant that they actually got, like in game terms, precisely 2,000 points. So the list counted as 2,000 points, despite it having way more stuff than 2,000 list could. But only if you brought all of the requisite things, which was, of course, laden down with some of the most expensive kits GW produces.
Mm. Yeah, remember those days.
Yes, you can see the intention behind this.
Yeah, obviously.
It's fairly clear what GW's idea was, and there was a lot of backlash for that, deservedly so. And so GW did back down on that because people started seeing the pattern. Like, hold on, you keep coming out with these very special formations that cost an assload and is really, really powerful. Like, we see
Yeah.
what you're doing here.
Yeah, and to be fair to GW again, I don't want to sound like a shill for GW because I'm definitely not. I've been the target of 2 cease and desist letters from them, so I'm definitely not a friend of theirs. Although I wanted to be, they didn't want that. Um, what what was it I wanted to say? Um, ah, Lost my train of thought there. Um, right. Okay. So what I wanted to say was that in with ninth edition, they changed their tune a little bit in that they're, I mean, they're ramping up their prices, yes, but unpopular opinion here, I they're offering a better product than they used to offer in terms of rules mostly, not in terms of models essentially. Uh, the game is, I dare say, better than it used to be, and it's and the company is more responsive to change. I mean, we get, you know, rules changes every 3 months or so.
I am. I both agree and disagree on that point because the company, it has definitely gotten more responsive than it used to be. Which to me, honestly, is like saying that, I got a fish in this pond. I've never gotten a fish before. Therefore, the pond is now good. Because that's kind of
Right, yeah,
GW.
that's a good point.
They
Yeah,
used to give us absolutely nothing, and
yeah, yeah.
now they at least spit on us on occasionally.
Right, and again, I don't want to sound like I'm defending them because what they did with the latest Tyranids Codex, I don't know if you played through that that debacle of overpowered Tyranids for a couple of months.
No,
That was,
but I've had one of my mods talk to me constantly about how awful the 30k codex is, so I can imagine.
yeah, it was horrible, and it wasn't like the Tyranids were they were weak before. I mean, they had the Crasher Stampede wherever it was before their last codex, and they brought this new codex that was broken everywhere, and everybody knew it. And with the first rules change, they reverted everything essentially and made them somewhat more balanced. And everyone was wondering, what, didn't you realize that that was broken? Which was,
Well, it's one of those interesting things where we can talk a lot about the company's internals, like Q&A testing, for example, and whether or not they even goddamn do any, because this is I mean, this has been a problem in 40k for ages, where they release something and they're like, this is clearly broken, and you can definitely be a little bit suspicious about this because I know other companies have done it. In PC gaming, for example, you've got the MOBA League of Legends. Don't know if you heard of it. Um,
yeah.
it used to release champions, have them be blatantly overpowered, obviously so, to the point where you could see it just by reading their stats. And then, when people complained after about a week or so, and people had bought lots of them, of course, the company would go, according to feedback, we're now going to fix this. Like, okay,
Mm.
you just sold me something, didn't you?
Yeah, when there's a price tag on it, it's a bit shady. Yeah.
You
If
can
there
get
is no,
suspicious.
yeah, if there is no price tag, you could argue that, yeah, that got away. But yeah, in that case, that's a bit odd. But with the way GW is designing rules, I mean, we were joking the other day and saying that the people who decide what gets done, what changes, are the warehouse managers, because they get asked what thing is in stock. Like for example, for the Tyranids, the thing that got more overpowered than anything else were the pyrovores. I mean, nobody has seen a Pyrovore since 2009, you know, and suddenly they became overpowered. I mean, they had the AP of the last cannon with their fists. Why? These aren't supposed to be close combat models anyway.
It's a good question. Now, okay, we wandered slightly off the original topics into griping
Yeah,
about GW, which is always
as
funny, of course.
expected.
But let's swivel all the way back to the front again, right? So, what even made you decide to do this? Like making like pin-up miniatures? You kind of mentioned it earlier with having these models at the hobby store and stuff, but
Oh, right,
expand a
yeah.
bit.
It was literally a joke. I mean, I don't even remember how it came to me. It was just a joke. I mean, I'm into I'm a kid of I was born in '82, so I grew up with Rambo. I grew up with Bon Jovi, and the MTV with with the hot ladies dancing, and all that kind of thing. With back in the '80s, the fantasy trope was usually buff men and hot women. That was
Yeah,
it.
it was Boris Vallejo paintings, Conan with a hot chick around his wrapped around his
Exactly.
leg, us holding up a
Exa-
ginormous axe and a mountain of corpses.
exactly. And that was great. That was epic. So
It was.
I don't even remember what got me into doing that. I mean, I just sculpted one base model, and initially I was only going to do just one for my Imperial Guard, and then I realized, wait a minute, I can turn that into an army. And then I wanted a tank because I'm a tank guy, and I needed a tank. And then needed some mechs or sentinels or whatever. And before you know it, I have an army. And
You
I
have the whole
realized that it
project.
could, yeah, and I realized that it could be pretty fun. And to be fair, in the tabletop, having an entire army of pinups who are wearing just their G-string, just because you're sitting behind your army, it's a nice view. So that
Those
makes
are
the game
just
a little
simple
bit,
aesthetics.
yeah. I mean, instead of looking at whatever chunky model GW does, that's better. It's better that way.
And clearly, a bunch of people are agreeing with this. Again, $16,000 in like a day. That is a success by anyone's book, I'd reckon.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
249 backers.
right, but I have to shout out to the My Mini Factory team here, because these guys are doing a tremendous work. I mean, and these guys, they have an absolutely great marketing team behind that is in touch with creators. I was saying that in earlier before we got into the chat here, how good they are with supporting creators, the My Mini Factory team. And it's not just they're supporting from the marketing side, which most of us 3D sculptors, we're not marketing people. We've no idea how to do these things. We barely even want to type anything at all. And they do all the work, at least most of it. And on the uh, another thing that they do is that they support us through their legal team, it turns out. And this is something I didn't know. I didn't know what was going to happen if some company had a grievance with one of my miniatures, for example. If I'm going to get a cease and desist letter again, or if it's going to get struck down from the site. Because most sites, what they will do is, like Amazon, for example, they don't care if they get a complaint from someone for an IP infringement. They just they just bring the thing down. They don't even tell
They
you.
will err on the side of caution. And
Yeah,
between
exactly.
some rando from Greece and a massive company, yeah.
Exactly.
They throw you
Exactly.
under the
But
bus.
yeah, yeah. But these guys, they fight. They actually have a legal team that fights every intellectual property infringement claim.
Which is actually pretty good for them and a very smart business move to attract more independents like yourself to their platform.
Yeah, and I think they don't advertise this enough. I mean, I found this out from my guy my I'd rather not say his name. Maybe I don't want him to get doxxed.
Yeah.
He actually told me, and it's my representative, my manufacturer representative, and this is something that's huge. I mean, people should know this. Creators should know this. That my manufacturer has your back. Now, that doesn't mean that you can, just sculpt a primary Space Marine one to one
Yeah.
and drop it into my manufacturer and expect anything to happen. Okay, you're gonna get struck down in that case. But if you make something that is original, at least to some degree, they'll probably fight, and you probably never hear of anyone ever.
Which is pretty good.
That's
And
great.
they're sticking up for fair use.
Yeah, they are. And on the plus side, they're also a company based on London, as far as I know. And
My
that
God.
that was something that got me worried. I was afraid that the GW lawyers would just walk right in.
We
You
just
know,
go over there, literally, like slam the lawsuit down on their table and go, "F you."
yeah, physically. I mean, but it
Yes.
turns out that they're sticking up to with us, so that's great. Shout out to my
Well,
manufacturer.
that's really good. And the thing is, too, a lot of this is, in many cases, also just good old fashioned frightening tactics where they'll send out things and they'll threaten to do X, Y, and Z, and they'll see if you budge. And in some cases, they've got a lot more leverage than others. Like, for example, when it comes to YouTube, the company has all the leverage in the world, and you have
Mm.
zero because YouTube is the one that decides whether or not to accept their claims. And if they do, they just take your stuff down and unilaterally.
Yeah.
Whereas in the case of a company like this, they have their own platform. They're a bit more resistant to this, so they can actually potentially try and fight it. Though, even then, again, a lot of companies will simply choose not to because it's easier.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
they're
very
sticking with
laudable.
the creators because they understand that it's the creators that make the platform. Without the creators, you don't have a platform. But I
It's
suppose,
absolutely
yeah,
true.
YouTube doesn't really care about that. Seems.
That's very cool. And the thing too is, of course, with fair use, etc., copyright protection, it is one of those highly interpretive parts of the law where something like this, like I would look at what you've made here, and I would not see any problems whatsoever. Like it is. Yes, sure, it is inspired. You can see at a glance that is inspired. You've got helmets that look very similar. You've got weapons that look very similar. But that's the thing. Inspiration is not illegal. If it was, Games Workshop would be getting sued an awful lot as well.
Yeah.
Because clearly the spirit of what you're doing here is very different. Like you have literal pin-up girls in erotic poses. A layman would not look at these models and go, "Oh, that's 40K."
Yeah. I suppose that's how you can see it. Now, there is a bit of a nuance here, which I would like to put on the table, just to support my fellow concept artists. And the, again, I'm not trying to shill for GW. Okay. Um, One of the issues that I could see being a legitimate grievance here is when you have something like, let's say, a Space Marine, right? The Space Marine i- is not something that just appeared out of nowhere. You have had concept artists working on the thing for God knows how long before you end up with the product, with the end design that is going to be the confirmed product, that we are going to turn this thing that we worked for so long into a model. And I mean, if you have any concept art, if there are any concept artists on the chat, they can attest to this. I mean, the work of the concept artist is pretty rigorous. I mean, they go through a lot of iterations. They get a lot of shit. So you can see the work of the concept artist as research. I can understand if someone takes that, let's say, research and turns and just changes a few things that are minor, that are not really important, like change, I don't know, like remove a symbol here and there. Let's say remove the aquila, right? um you still have you're still benefiting from the research or the concept art of the original creator.
Yep, that's true. They spearheaded it. They worked on it. They researched it. They refined it, and that's
Yeah,
something that often gets overlooked in a lot of cases. Absolutely correct on that.
yeah, and I hate to say this because I might be infringing on some concept artists myself. I mean, everybody does that. Like you said, Arch, it's inspiration essentially. But there is a very thin line at what is inspiration and what is essentially uh, piggybacking on someone else's work.
That's true, but I would
Yes.
also argue that when you're taking inspiration, you're doing more than just copying their work, right? You're
Mm,
taking it and evolving it in a new and interesting direction. You're pushing it another bounds forward. Now, if you
yeah,
were doing plagiarism, you would just change that doodad here, change that boobob, add a jaw there, that's good
yeah,
enough. And the silhouette's the same. And then you can really tell because at a glance you'll be like, "Hey, is that a space marine?" And then you look closer and like it looks like a space marine. Versus when
yeah,
you have something distinct, you have a unique silhouette, a unique aesthetic, a unique design. It gives it its own soul and spirit.
yeah, yeah. That's exactly my point. Yeah, which is not to say that you should not try to evolve something with small changes, because then there's the thing of people independent coming at the same design. I mean, the Space Marine silhouette is distinct, but it's still an armored dude with a gun and a backpack.
Yeah, it's pretty basic bitch when you think about it. Like that could
Yeah, I
be
mean,
anyone, that could be anything. It's a basic concept.
yeah, I mean, yeah, you can say that they have iconic pauldrons, perhaps. Yeah, I mean, but still, it's armor. I mean, on a human, armor on a human looks pretty much like that. What else are you
Well,
gonna do?
the usual how do I put it? Like the usual standard for determining whether or not something is infringing on copyright, it's very loosely defined. Basically, if somebody normal could reasonably mistake your product for somebody else's, that's basically the standard.
That's right.
Like,
That's it.
and it's complicated because it's highly interpretive and it has gone back and forth thousands of times. Like if you look into copyright law, for example, one brilliant example, there was two companies both named Whirlwind, and one was selling washing machines and the other one was selling hair dryers or something stupid like that, I think. And they were selling wildly different products, but they had the same name and generally same sounding logo. And in these cases, the judge basically said, okay, well, I'm going to call this a copyright infringement because it's too similar, because you're using too many similarities. It's Whirlwind, same kind of logo stuff, etc. Yet in another case, you have almost the same example with, I think it was Tempest. Almost same logo, almost same name, two companies that sold two very different things. And on that occasion, it wasn't copyright infringement because, again,
Mm.
extraordinarily interpretive. In your case, again, I don't think this could be interpreted as Imperial Guardsman. I think if you showed this to a normal person, and just somebody who had no idea what 40k is, you show them Imperial Guardsman, and you show them one of your pinup figurines, they'll be okay. Well, those two are clearly different.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Those are obviously quite generic in terms of.
Yes,
I mean, maybe the weapons give them away,
the
but
weapons
the
are the
rest,
only thing, probably. But take the flag bearer for example. You've got a
yeah,
sexy woman striking a sexy pose, clearly meant to be provocative. Show that compared to the Imperial Guardsman of Creed, for example, holding his flag, which I'm presuming is the inspiration.
yeah,
A normal person will not look at those two and go, "Oh, that's the same model." Like no reasonable person would.
yeah, yeah. That's true. That's true.
And even the weapons, like the thing is, that requires foreknowledge. Like if you don't know what a lasgun is or a bolter is, that just looks like a fantasy laser pistol, you know?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And again, there are so many ways that you can make a pistol or a weapon, a rifle with that looks like a weapon. I mean, certain parts are just going to be there. Like you're
Yes.
going to have a barrel, you're going to have a trigger, you're going to have all these parts that you expect to see on a weapon.
Yes, and when you're doing science fiction, like the plasma cannon, for example, okay, it's a plasma
Yeah,
weapon, all right, so it's going to have glowy bits and shit.
exactly. Yeah.
But again, it's about the spirit, the aesthetics, the feel, and the presentation of these things.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect GW to ever come after this anyway, because it seems something that they wouldn't want to touch with a 10-foot pole, you know.
I'm
They
sure they'd try. I'm sure they'd do the usual scummy thing. They'd send a cease and desist, see what happens, and if you say no, fuck you, meet me in court, then they'll just meh.
we'll find out on Monday if something like that happens, because it's the weekend. They probably don't work now.
And the thing is too, GW is quite infamous for picking easy targets, shall we say. Like, there's a tremendous recasting market in Russia. GW has never bothered with it in the slightest, and that's because they know, okay, GW is going to go to Russia and be like, could you take this down? No.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did try to contact them, because they had contacted me in the past. I'm from Greece, so they were having essentially the same problems. That if we ended up going to court, they would have to send someone in Greece, and it would be cumbersome, to say the least, to pursue a case like that. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did try to contact someone, but what's probably happening is that Russians are very based on that kind of thing, and they're very used to doing this kind of work, so they just ignore them, which is the smart thing to do.
Yes, it would be hell to prove.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know one guy who got shut down in Greece, but he was doing. I mean, everybody else was fine, but this guy, he was blatantly recasting GW models and actually using their logos, and taking the piss out of them as well. Uh, he had a company, I think it was called Failcast,
Huh.
so or not Failcast, something like that. He was a nice dude, but he was poking the bear too much,
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
think he eventually got his PayPal suspended, something like that,
Ooh, that's nasty.
Well,
which is scummy.
there's
Yeah,
the
which is very
other
scummy.
thing too. Even if you are completely in the right, you're dealing with a company and not a moral company. No one will mistake GW for a moral company. And if they can't get you through legal means, they will play the game. Like if you're on YouTube, for example, they will simply send a letter to YouTube saying, "Hey, take this down," and
Yep.
your only recourse is going to be to take them to court straight up. You won't even have
Mm.
mediation on the matter.
And the thing is, we go further than that. So, what happens next if a person doesn't remove something and they're not complying? You just go to the next level. You go after
Mm.
their payment. If they have advertisers, you go after their advertisers. If they're using PayPal, you go after PayPal. If they're using MasterCard and Visa, you pull that. You pull everything that they have financially available to the point that you suffocate them into doing what you want. That's just how the
Yes,
copyright business works, and you do that
it
all
is.
the time.
It is the coward's way. It is them circumventing the law because in many cases they know they don't have a legal claim, but they don't need to make a legal claim. They have more societal power than you.
Well, it's not necessarily societal. Like businesses, they're getting legal trouble. PayPal will get in actual trouble if they're, letting money being transitioned illegally. Same goes for Mastercard and Visa, and they don't want to touch a legal matter because they're like, well, I don't want to be involved in a
Mm.
controversial thing. I don't really care. It's just one person.
Yeah, but that's exactly it. Like that's how they abuse their societal power because that person has not committed a crime. He has not been proven to have committed a crime. They have no legal basis to take one side or the other, but they will because the company has more societal power and they can simply say, "Oh well, we're going to make a stink about this." And their options are limited because they don't want to stink.
So what's
Like
the problem?
that is what it is. It is circumventing the legal system and just using power, influence, and money instead.
Right. Essentially, what they're doing when they do that is they force you to go on the offensive, which is nigh impossible because it's going to be too costly for you.
Yep.
Because you can pursue them then for bullying, which I was told by my lawyer, if he's watching, hi, that this is actually a thing. You can actually accuse a company for bullying you this way, but then you
Yes.
have to go on the offensive. I mean, who does that?
You have to have the money to
And
do it.
Yeah.
there's the other problem, right? Because you can. There are many ways in which you can potentially possibly do this. There are several legal avenues that can be used, and you do theoretically have quite a lot of legal rights in these regards. Take, for example, when it came up that GW had contacted Wargaming, the World of Warships producers, and told them specifically not to work with me, which they practically admitted to on social media, etc. That's illegal. That's tortuous interference. But how the fuck do you prove it? How the fuck do you pursue it? You would have to.
How did
Yeah,
you
go on.
find that out?
Oh, they said
Sorry,
so
sorry.
on social media. Literally,
Oh, okay.
they straight up said it, but they said it in a bit of a roundabout way. There was like, we had a talk with GW. They asked us not to contact these and these, and now you introduce that down. It's like, ask. Okay, so they didn't order you, so technically you can choose. So technically it isn't tortious interference. And to prove that one way or the other, I would then have to figure out some way to subpoena Wargaming in Cyprus for meeting details
Which is not
between
going
them
to
and
happen
GW.
because there's
Yeah, yeah.
Cyprus, and Cyprus is basically untouchable, which is why they
Yes.
set up in Cyprus to begin with.
And even to start that proceedings, they would undoubtedly fight it tooth and nail before any kind of discovery could even be launched. And there's the issue, like, even if you have a very good suspicion that you're being fucked over, well, do you have $100,000 to burn?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's very scummy of them.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that is the problem. Our modern day legal system is a hell of a lot better than many, but it still does it does still privilege those with the money to burn on legal defense.
Yep, you have the money. You basically can just outsiege your opponent, so to speak. Like, they just can't keep
Yes.
up. You might be right. You might be justified in what you're doing, and you might have won that court case. But because they could drag it out long enough, you had to fold.
It is now would be a good time to insert an ad. No, YouTube. Fuck off. Oh, Yanovich. Oh, I didn't see you there in the chat. Sorry, I haven't been paying attention to the chat. It's been an
Wow.
interesting
He's
conversation.
been here this whole time. I even said hi.
Well, why didn't you point him out then, Kyle?
Look, I pay attention to the chat, unlike you.
Clearly you
Bart.
didn't, lying slut.
Yeah, I already been interactive. Bullied one person to suicide and said hello to Yano.
But yes, hello, Yanovich. If you don't know who Yanovich is, no, by the way, how did you pronounce it again? Tippis?
It's Tsipis.
Tsipis.
No,
There
Tsipis.
you go. There you go.
Not CP.
Tsipis.
Exactly. There's a T. There's a. It's
Tsipis.
Greek.
He's a
It's
Grekaboo.
Greek. Yeah, anyway, it's retarded. I get you.
Yeah, exactly.
But Yanovich is a fan animator who has gotten in a little bit of issue himself with 40k over making his fan animations.
Now, those issues with the animators, I never understood them. What's the vested interest of GW for pursuing animators, people who make content that are
Well,
not miniatures?
They're
I don't
competing.
understand that.
They're competing with their Warhammer Plus. That's how they view it.
Yes.
Their competition directly in line with Warhammer Plus, so they need to be gotten rid of in order to promote Warhammer Plus.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
And sadly, that is a pretty solid legal argument as well, because before they had very little legal argument. 'Cause, like, okay, but you make miniatures. Like, this fan animator is not
Yeah,
cutting in on your business.
You're not making any animations. Then they got into the business of animations, so then they had more legal recourse. They could be like, well, see, it's interfering with Warhammer Plus sales, so therefore they are infringing on our IP. Now we can take legal action against them.
Yes.
Right.
And that would be a pretty solid argument, because you could look at a 40k animation and you could very clearly say, yeah, but this is clearly 40k.
Yep.
Yeah, but some of the satirical ones, I mean.
Oh yeah, like for example, take text-to-speech device. I do not think GW would have had any case against text-to-speech device. I really don't think so. Like, it's obvious, self-evident satire.
Exactly, yeah.
They fall under fair
But
use.
again, it's like, do you want to take that risk? And again, bearing in mind he was a YouTuber, so on YouTube, you're guilty until you've proven otherwise. And even if you can prove otherwise, as in, for example, the case of Count Dankula, where he went through the legal proceedings and they gave him a stupid ass fine without finding him guilty, even.
Yeah, 600
YouTube's
quid, right?
Yeah, so YouTube still took away his monetization privileges until one of Susan's friends got on the phone and called them off. So it's like, again, we return to the problem where if you are in a position where you have less societal privilege than your opposition, you know, you're gonna have a problem. Tragic though that may be.
We are in a pickle, aren't we? Maybe communism is the answer.
Yep, let's give it a shot and see what happens.
Well,
Let's
I
burn
mean,
the
we haven't
souffle
tried it
again.
before, so might as well.
It's never really been tried, so what could go wrong?
No, it I mean, unironically, it is a societal problem with our legal system, but it's also one of those difficult ones to fix because, well, what? You just give free legal counsel to everyone? Theoretically, you can get free legal counsel, but if you're good at it, never do it for free.
Exactly, yeah.
That's
I don't
the
think there's
issue.
an answer to that, you know.
At the very least, not a simple one that we're going to come up with over the course of this immediate stream, maybe.
No, definitely not.
Awesome.
But let's talk about the sexiness then, because I want to talk about that a little bit too, because it's an interesting point, isn't it? If you go back to our days, right, of you know, Conan comics being Marvel releasing Conan comics, like Jesus Christ, Marvel has changed a lot, haven't they? Oh god, I love that thing because I reread a bunch of Conan recently because I fucking love Conan, and it's being released by Marvel, and it's just the brutalest, bloodiest shit you've ever seen. And these days, Marvel is nothing but cape shit, and it's awful. And every single chapter of Conan, he does something ridiculous, over the top, and masculine. Like he arm wrestles, he fights in a bar, he curses at people, fights in fucking wars and battles, steals women by the hundreds, etc. I don't know if we can describe that as masculine. You get my drift.
You listen, he's got to get some, okay?
Exactly. You know, he's a big boy. He has needs. Such is life. But it was commonly known. It was just a fact accepted by everyone. Sex sells, and again, it was in every medium. Look at like the big pop stars of the '90s, for example. You've got the Britney Spears and the Christina Aguileras, etc. Basically competing to wear less and more provocative clothes on screen. Yeah, in their music videos. I mean, hell, the very idea of a music video. Why does a music video exist? To provide an visual medium, usually a provocative visual medium. And yet today, the idea that sex sells is simply just sexist. Like you can't do it because it's judgmental, it's evil, and you'll actually get into a lot of trouble if you do it. It's an interesting.
Nice little
Yes.
rant, Barch. Good job.
There is a
Thanks.
point to that, though. I mean, again, I'm going to take the contrary position from mine, and which it's not necessarily the contrary position. And
Contrarian,
the
but
contrary, yeah, the contrarian position here would be the one that essentially that comes from tradition, that tells you that sexiness, the sex appeal, is something that is rather dangerous. I mean, look at dogs. Look at a pack of dogs. If there is one female dog that is in heat, then that's that. I mean, that pack of dogs is no longer a pack of dogs. That's a pile of dogs now, and that's something that can happen with humans as well. If you let sexiness go astray, then you can have a pile of dogs. So that's the one argument. So there is prudence in concealing, let's say, the sexy parts of well, of a female, mostly because nobody cares about males. So you could. I mean, I understand that argument, and I'm not really sure where I'm going with this.
Well, actually, you bring up an interesting point because I don't think there's a societal argument being made here at all. I think this is it's a power argument, simple as that.
That's exactly it. Yeah.
Because it benefits one position exclusively, and that is the feminist position, and that's it. Because, as you mentioned, nobody gives a fuck about the men. There was a recent, very interesting example with Chris Hemsworth, for example, who's the actor who plays the incredibly emasculative Thor of the modern day Marvel franchise. He had to do a shirtless scene for the latest movie, Love and Thunder or something.
Yeah.
And he dehydrated himself for 36 hours before that shot to look the most muscular he possibly could. Now, the human body can only survive about 48 or so odd hours before you die from that. So he literally had to put his life at risk because he needed to take his shirt off for a 30-second cut. And that's just fine. Nobody is like, oh, Chris Hemsworth, he's being abused, we must save Chris Hemsworth. No, there are cinema halls full of clapping females all across the nation lauding this. It's not even a topic.
Yeah, that's true. My mom is guilty of this. I know that.
Okay, well, your mom will have to die when the purges come. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Mom.
Your son outed you.
Yeah, that clip was making the rounds in the internet when it came out. Is that the clip where the I don't know who that is, some god dude who undresses him with the one pinch of his fingers? Is that the clip?
It was a trailer where he was standing there in like golden chains, buck naked,
Right.
and you had a very gratuitous shot, low angle, up at the bum.
Yeah.
Look at
That was making the
Angus.
rounds on the internet.
Yep. Because it was
Facebook
so
didn't seem to
obviously
care.
hypocritical. That's the thing. Like, you look at that, and if you put a woman in that position, you'd have the feminist screen like, look at this low-angle shot. They're clearly showing off her body. Filthy men. Chris Hemsworth, oh my god, how sexy he is. Woo.
I mean, imagine a similar scene where that happens and they rip the clothes from her body and people are like, oh my god, it's basically rape. But you don't get anything like that if it happens to you. It's like, whatever.
No, because again, there are very, very different societal standards. We kind of return to the power thing there. I've been rewatching the Boys recently, and there's an interesting scene in there where Starlight, one of the superheroes, she comes across a couple of college-aged guys in an alley, and they appear to be getting ready to rape a woman. Okay, mean, you shouldn't rape people. Normally, it's usually bad.
Yeah, only a little bit.
But they're not raping her yet. Like, their pants aren't off, no penetration has happened. She's been bent over a car, and it definitely looks like it's about to be raped. So Starlight shows up and goes like, hey, stop that. And she doesn't introduce herself, or announce herself, would be more correct in this regard. She doesn't go like, hey, I'm a superhero. Stop that, rape, you violent pedophiles, or whatever. She just goes like, stop, and they go like, oh, no, we're not, because they're two stupid, drunk college kids. She shows no authority. She doesn't try to like tell them, oh, hi, I'm an official, stop that. She doesn't try to talk them down. She just beats their shit in, smashing one of their heads through a fucking windshield. And like, these guys are severely injured. And the woman runs off like, okay, you prevented a potential rape and you severely injured two men. And the response, of course, was tears. Now, normally, okay, well, obviously, but think about that a little closer. So it's perfectly fine for a woman with superpowers, again, she's ridiculously much more powerful than either of these poor fuckers, to beat two guys unconscious because she suspects a crime might be happening with no forewarning or announcement.
Yep. Innocent until proven guilty. Now, it is one of those things that she should intervene because it is probably going to be rape, but it's not 100%.
Yes. But the thing is, there is a way to intervene, especially as she is basically police in this universe.
Mm-hmm.
And the best part, too, is she actually uses that argument afterwards in her own defense, because there's a lot of outrage. Like, hey, we've got a video of you beating two college-age dudes unconscious. This is looking pretty fucking awful. And she goes like, wait, hey, aren't I innocent until proven guilty? Like, you just beat 2 people unconscious because you thought they might be raping someone. Like,
But wasn't it obvious that they were going to rape her? I haven't watched the series. I have no idea what that scene looks like.
I know. It was relatively obvious, but again, they hadn't done anything. Like, that's the thing. And if you're going to use innocent until proven guilty, you need to ward them off first. There is procedure. It's the reason why the police don't shoot people immediately.
Oh, she's a
upon
police
seeing
officer.
them.
Okay. I thought she was just a,
No, she's a
superhero guy,
superhero. Yeah, she has all
Okay.
of the powers of a police officer in this universe.
Oh, okay. So she had the opportunity to just apprehend them, and instead she
Yes.
just mauled them. Okay.
She is also ludicrously more powerful than either of these. Like, she lifts cars.
So
Okay,
she
I
could have
got it,
just
I got it.
apprehended, just walked over and just put their hands on their
Yeah,
back.
she
and
could
then
have
nothing
gone
they could do
over,
about it.
grabbed them both by the fucking scruff of the neck, and lifted them into the air like they were children.
Right, I got it. Yeah.
That would pull them from their drunken stupor. At least a little sobering moment there.
Yes. But that was a big side tangent to all of that, because, of course, the reason why we don't see sexiness anymore is because it has become a social faux pas. There is a political movement that has a great deal of power and gravitas that have said that we don't like this, therefore you can't do it. Whereas preceding this, of course, the reason why sexiness was popular in the first place, to be fair, was because there was another societal movement that had a lot of influence and power, namely the fucking consumers, who, in the case of wargaming and Conan comics, etc., used to be overwhelmingly male. Still is overwhelmingly male, probably, in my opinion, but details.
Yeah, of course it is.
And, well, that's one of the reasons why we have such plummeting sales numbers in the case of comics as well, where people just don't want to read most comics anymore because they're not giving them what they want. They're not giving them that sexiness, that heroism, that cool factor. Now, in the case of your product, as we can again clearly see, you've been up for a day, you've raised over $10,000. Obviously, there is a market for this.
Almost
So
2,000.
why is
Yeah,
no one pursuing it?
And the funny thing is that there's a bunch of people in my campaign that are asking for completely naked models. Actually,
Ooh.
Because why not?
that was a shocker for me. Didn't expect that.
Listen, I don't even know what's going on in your 40k tabletop game, but they're engaging in diplomacy, if you will.
Yeah, but I'm going to do that. I'm going to do the absolute naked guard babes. No problem there, guys.
There you go, DGen chat. Don't forget to check the description for the link.
Yep, get you being there.
It is.
But again, the question repeats. Why is nobody else servicing this market? Why? Because remember back in the day,
people
too.
Are, actually. I think tons of people are doing that already. I mean, if you look at my manufacturing,
Yeah, there's a fuck ton of stuff.
There's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot.
Yeah, but these aren't companies. These are randos in their basement putting some stuff out.
And honestly, that's good enough, in my opinion. Like, fuck it. They're doing just as fine. Like, I know a lot of people who are switching over to 3D printing, and who are just normally buying, like, offhanded products. They're giving up on the AAA, so to speak. That's good.
Well, to be fair, I mean, there are so many creators out there, and GW's strength is not their sculpting capacity. It's not that they don't have good sculpts. They obviously do, but what makes them, well, dare say, great is their manufacturing capacity and their distribution capacity. I mean, the fact that they can make these miniatures with those kind of details in plastic with the plastic injection, that is a feat. That's what they're doing best. Sculpting, there are plenty of sculptors out there who are better than whatever GW is employing, because that's not the most challenging part of the business.
Logistics.
So there are bound to be better sculpts out there. There just won't be in plastic. They'll be in 3D printable models, which have a lot of advantages in terms. I mean, the plastic injection bits, right? I mean, GW still does plastic injection, and they're great at that. You have to cut the models in so many different ways in order to get it to come right out of the steel mold. Some of those models that come out, they're a real marvel how they manage to cut those models. I mean, the people who cut the models and prepare the molds, those are the artists and the concept artists, obviously. The sculpts themselves, I mean, they're great, but they're just technical things that an average sculptor can do. If you give them the proper concept art, they can do it. They can replicate it.
Replicate it.
Well, the concept art, I mean, right?
Yep.
Okay, so if you have a decent 3D sculptor and they get a proper concept art, two sculptors, they will do the same thing if they have a proper concept art.
Yep, because the concept art is the blueprint with which to work with.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Well, I would also say that the GW's primary strength right now is simply that they're a Games Workshop. They've been doing this then longer than anyone else. They have an established fan base. They have more machines, more ability to service that area. And because they were the ones who came up with 40K. And the tabletop gaming scene is in a very much so of a rut, I would dare to say, when it comes to general creativity. There's just not a whole lot of competitors to 40K that aren't just doing 40K.
That's true. And that's also a big downside, especially in the company side of things. I've looked at some of the tabletop games that are coming out into existence, and a lot of them feel like they're trapped doing sort of like what the WoW clones did, where they're following like, oh, well, GW did this, so why don't we do the same thing? But let's not bother with the lore. Let's just basically make these minis, make this rule set, make it really quick, ship it out, and then move on to the next thing. They're not really investing into the IP. In fact, a lot of them are just making like a half-baked IP with little to no attention to depth and adding soul or lore, because there's really no point, because they view it as a quick cash grab and move on to the next project.
Yeah, I recently read an article, I don't remember where I read it, that there's some Saudi Arabia investor pouring like $1 billion in Fantasy Flight games for doing war games. I'm not sure if I read that correctly, but if there's an investor going in throwing $1 billion for developing some kind of war gaming project, we could be seeing a competitor in the next 5 years or so. Because that's exactly right. That's exactly the problem. People are just doing what GW does. I mean, even Mantic did the same thing, which is essentially GW 2.0, right?
They're not being bold, and that's the
Mantic
issue.
is GW 0.2.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it. Yeah.
Yes, Mantic is Mantic is not a competitor to GW. They are an alternative to GW, and not a very good one. I know it's mean because they do have their own setting as well. Like, I've heard good things about Firefight, for example. But even then, you look at Firefight and it's like, okay, well, this is very standard-esque sci-fi, and you are, again, very clearly taking more than a little bit of inspiration here. I'll send you a copy of this, Kyle. Let me send it to you two. It takes 5 seconds to remember. Tsipis?
Yeah, you got it right.
Foreign is difficult, okay? Here, like, their Min Strike Force. Fucking look at that.
Where? Where's it, Bjorch? Where'd you put it?
Send it to you.
Yeah.
Can't you be
Skaven in space, right?
Space Skaven? Oh god, here we go again. Oh my god, they're literally just the same. That's kind of...
Yeah, they have the wheel and everything.
That's creative.
Yes, they've got the Doom Wheel.
That's creatively bankrupt. Like, that's another issue, though. It's like, they're like, oh, well, everyone's making just orcs. And everyone's like, I gotta do a sci-fi. Gotta have weird, quirky space aliens with a gimmick. It's like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, but that is a good question, though. How do you break through that barrier of GW monopoly on the game and the lore? Well, I don't think there's an easy way out.
There's no easy way.
There's an easy way either. Like, there wasn't an easy way for Games Workshop either. Like, Games Workshop started their stuff out as a goddamn Lord of the Rings ripoff,
Yep.
you know?
Yeah.
And they kept at it, and eventually it had success. And there's a lot of luck involved. There's persistence involved, skill, of course, etc. But there's never an easy road to success.
Yep.
There's not even a skill-based road to success, really.
It takes a lot of effort to build an IP.
Yes, it absolutely do. But when it comes to the lore, that's the interesting thing right there. How do you break their monopoly on the lore? Because by that, I'm thinking you don't mean necessarily you break, like, how do I put it? Them having access to the lore, as like they're the only ones with lore in the universe, kind of. But how do you break out of their mold? Like they have created a setting and it's become highly influential. And how do you not fall prey to just being influenced by it? I'm guessing kind of it's a difficult way of saying it.
Just confusing Kibbs. I would help, but I'm confused.
You're very stupid as well.
You know who
You're also bad
I'd
at
want
conveying
to
your
chip
idea.
into this conversation?
Oh.
I'd want
Oh.
Jordan Peterson to chip into this conversation, because what I think is that if you read the Warhammer lore, he would attribute the success of Warhammer into some kind of what would you call it? The not stereotype. Well, I'm drawing to a blank here.
It's okay. Give it a second.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
think I get your general idea. Like 40K is very clearly meant to appeal to a very specific audience, and that audience used to be, at least, teenage boys.
Yeah, I just got the word. It's a Greek word, actually. It's archetypical. It's an archetype, right?
Yes.
So
yes.
There might be something in Warhammer lore that is archetypical in a sense that everybody's drawn to it and they don't really understand why.
I would also say that it definitely appeals to a certain archetype, as you say. In this case, the archetype is definitively males, because it's a very brutal, very competitive, very violent universe. It's very cool, very metal-esque. I mean, hell, the initial orc art, for example, an initial 40K arc, was basically just heavy metal covers.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, there's nothing
yeah,
wrong
it
with
definitely
this.
is. Yeah.
But like that was very much so the inspiration, and it was also that it came along. Well, not that it came along, but it was around at a time when it was very refreshing, kind of, because a lot of sci-fi around the time was fairly optimistic. Like the biggest fantasy thing at the time was, of course, Lord of the Rings, which was a deeply, inherently optimistic setting where you had good triumphing over evil, and it wasn't wishy-washy good. It's pure good triumphing over pure evil, you know? And in many cases, the complete opposite of what's currently popular can often turn out to be very popular in turn. To even begin to try to quantify the success of GW, I think is a fool's errand, frankly, because there's a lot.
Others have tried. I mean, Private Press, was doing pretty well about 10 years ago with their War Machine and Hordes and stuff like that. I mean, and their lore is not top notch, I'd say, but it's decent. I don't know if you're familiar with the lore of the Iron Kingdoms and all that.
A bit. Like, that's a good point. You can, again, you can bring up, like, why didn't something else succeed instead? Well, I would say, looking at the stuff we've got, right, we've got, like, Privateer, right? War Machine, cool, but very similar to 40K in many ways. Like the art style, the silhouette, the design, a lot of it's quite reminiscent. And it was also ridiculously expensive. Like it's not it's gonna have a hard time, really getting out there.
Yeah, they were a company based on Seattle, so That
Here, let
makes
me.
sense. That they,
I'll send this model to you, Kibs from Privateer Press. That's $165.99.
A what? $165 for that?
Yep.
Let me enhance. I'm gonna enhance the image.
I mean, it's a pretty nice sculpt, no doubt about it. But my God, the price point.
That's a bit fucking steep.
is it one of
Even
their Titans? I don't remember what they're called. They're the gigantic miniatures. They had something like Titans.
kind of ish. Like
Is
here's
that it?
another one, more like akin to a squad, right? I sent to both of you.
Oh, right, okay.
That's a fairly basic, like infantry looking squad, right? A decent quality. Sure, there's what 10 models.
$84? Oh God, no!
Yes,
Anything above $20 is too
$85.
much.
That's
Yeah,
ouchie price right there.
yeah, but to be fair, you need a lot fewer models to play the game.
True, but even so, like this is a scary price point. You look
Yeah.
at this price point, you go, oof, oof.
Yeah.
And to figure out that you don't need that many, you need to already invest yourself into the setting. And I don't know if anyone will invest themselves after seeing that box.
Yeah, it's
Like,
been a while since I saw their prices. I didn't realize they had gone that far.
it is
Well,
a genuinely scary price point.
I'm not
Yeah,
sure. Maybe
okay.
they're making price adjustments, but economically speaking, in the United States, things aren't very good. Like a gallon, or not a gallon of gas. Sorry, like a full tank is like over $100 now for some vehicles. It's getting bad in terms of inflation. So it might be affected because of that. Because I remember I went into a little grocery store and all the prices were slashed and blacked out because like nope, all the prices are being upped because everything's so expensive.
Unlikely, because Privateer Press has been around for fucking ever, and it's always been expensive.
Okay, well you have more knowledge on their history in that case.
Yeah, but they only had only had metal and resin miniatures. I mean, they had some plastics at some point, but I don't think they turned their entire collection to plastic. So that's a
No,
lot more expensive.
it is. But again,
But Barch lagging.
what?
Barch, say it
Fix it.
again. No, you're fine. Say it again. Speak.
That is their problem. That their shit is too expensive.
Okay.
Yeah.
But okay, let's like War Machine. It a bit basic bitch in my opinion, and very expensive. It's a scary thing to get into. It's a hardcore niche. Okay, then let's look at Mantic Games, and I've heard very good things about their rule set. I haven't played it myself, but sure, maybe their rule set is really cool, fantastic. But it's just 40k, and it's just Warhammer. Like already, you've got this problem that you're trying to convince a new person to play this, and they look at this and they go, "All right, well, I mean, I could just play 40k because that's what his friends have probably, told him to play at this point."
Yep, and you're very right. Like it's the investment thing too. I remember I have a lot of friends who still play WoW, and the reason why they don't leave is because well they invested X amount of money already. They built up these guilds. They put a lot of time and hours into it. But in the case of miniatures, you build them, you paint them. You're very invested. It's going to be very hard for someone to convince you to drop your Warhammer stuff and be like, hey, let's try game B or C or something else.
Yes, and if you have no in with the already invested crowd, you are going to have dick all presence in the hobby, because you got to deal with the simple fact that right now, Games Workshop is the king, undisputedly so.
They must be moitered.
Moided.
Jeez.
And then you've got Fantasy Flight, which kind of avoids the problem by not competing with Games Workshop at all, by simply just licensing everything under the sun. Which is, it's a tactic. They've got what? Star Wars. They've got like Marvel. They've got some Lord of the Rings stuff. They've got like everything else that isn't 40k.
Actually, there is another company. It's actually a Greek company as well, which was very weird. It's called Parabellum Games. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're making a Warhammer Fantasy type of game with ranks and everything. And I haven't got into the lore, but a good friend of mine is doing the lore. He's a writer, and I trust him. And I haven't gotten into it, but I'm sure that it's going to be interesting to say the least. And they seem to be moving well. They seem to be supporting retailers and stuff like that, which is a hard thing to do already. I mean, I don't know if Private Press is doing that to a very extensive degree, at least. And
I
I don't know if
found
you've
them
heard of
here.
them.
I
It's
have heard of
Parabellum.
them.
Yeah.
Yes, I found them. I've sent them over to Gibbs to put up on screen. And immediately I'm looking at our factions thing, and I'm a little bit like, the Nords, the Dvegholm. Like, okay, we're already entering into the shadow of Warhammer, aren't we?
The warlord.
It's really hard to avoid it because I mean they got onto Lord of the Rings, right? I mean they essentially ripped everything off from Lord of the Rings.
Well, yeah, you can still make new stuff. You don't have to just make Lord of the Rings. Make a new IP. Now, that isn't necessarily an easy thing to do, but start from the ground up. You know, maybe do you like antiquity? Or maybe late medieval? Pike and shot, perhaps. Maybe start with something like that, a different setting.
Would be great.
Yeah,
it would.
Make a fantasy like setting in Pike and Shot with like, you know, orcs and dwarves, but it's in the Pike and Shot era. And how would those races interact with that technology, you know? That could be interesting.
And even then,
that's actually a very good idea.
You're
Let's
welcome.
do that.
Again, creators that want to create actual alternatives and competitors need to tear themselves away from these fucking archetypes.
Yep.
Because they are pervasive.
They need to take inspiration from something else for a change.
And I get it, right? Dwarves are cool, so you want to have dwarves, but everyone has dwarves.
Yeah, maybe
dinosaurs are cool. You want to have dinosaurs, okay, but they're just fucking dinosaurs now.
Rare.
Like, as much as I absolutely agree with the old saying that originality is de facto a myth, because everything has probably already been done in one way, form, or another, you need to try.
Yep.
And it's a really awful piece of advice to give to anyone that's trying to be creative.
I think that originality stems from execution as well. Like, how you execute a project is going to very much make it. Like, find a good artist who has a very unique flavor art style, and he'll push you in crazy directions, aka Star Wars. The art for that is incredible. The artist behind the designs is an amazing artist. He passed away not too long ago. Find a good artist.
There is also a to be fair point to be made here as well, and that is that making anything today is going to be infinitely harder than making it 50 years ago. For the simple reason that we are living in a time where a lot more stuff has been already explored. Like Star Wars is not an original setting in the slightest. Like, it is, like the name itself, Star Wars. It is the least inspired thing you could probably ever have imagined. And that was the original idea as well. I mean, the weapons are literally just World War II props that they clunked together. But here's the thing. Originality doesn't even need to be 100% original. It just needs to have that soul, that spark. And Star Wars had that soul and that spark. Like, samurai knightish orders kind of things in space with like glowing laser swords and shit, and you've got stormtroopers in awesomely designed armor that just, it looks dangerous and oppressive and aggressive, whilst also looking a little bit derby. And Darth Vader's design too. You've got all of these white stormtroopers, then you've got this one enormous motherfucker in pitch black armor, you know?
Mm-hmm. He's one of the most iconic villains in fiction, if I remember right.
Yeah. And there's the thing, like, you don't necessarily even need to have all of the ingredients be unique or special, but you need the touches, the little things, the piece de resistance to stand out and be something else. Even more so now than ever before. Warhammer got away with being a Lord of the Rings ripoff because, frankly, even back then, people probably was like, Lord of the Rings? What's that? It's like, well, you see, I'm an enormous nerd, so I've read this 700-page book that comes in 3 installments, and most people would just spit at you.
Also, books back in the day were actually kind of expensive.
Oh yeah, like it was a fucking niche ass hobby. Like, and buying a book too, just to have a bedtime story read to you, like people would scoff at that, no doubt.
I mean, books were like a sort of an expensive hobby, especially depending on when you go. Like when Lord of the Rings was written, it very much was, and it circulated well because it was such a popular story, and it also popularized certain fantasy elements and tropes that became the mainstay, which has led to a sort of problem we're in now, where people are so creatively bankrupt and they don't want to take risks that they just simply rely on, well, Tolkien did this, so I'm going to copy Tolkien. And while that works to a degree, there is a fatigue level that's building.
Yes, and well, there's another thing as well. Like I can't tell for sure, but I do believe that people are probably ready for something quite different than 40k Warhammer, the established setting. Something that just comes a little bit out of left field, maybe. Something that just takes a look at things and goes, okay, I don't want to do these other things. I'm going to try something quite different again. And well, I guess we'll wait and see in the future if anything like that materializes. But yeah, to wander a little bit off the more ephemeral topic again, turn to the topic at hand, actually. I think maybe like your pinup models represent this a little bit in a certain eye, because it does go against the paradigm. Like, I remember one of the emails you sent me, you mentioned that the campaign that would come before this was called like D&D is female or something.
Is a woman.
D&D is a woman. There you go.
Right, yeah. I think the campaign is still running on Frontiers, and they're doing pretty well, to be fair. But yeah, it seemed a bit pandering.
I mean, if that's what works for them, they can do what they want, as long as they don't interfere with our stuff.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But they never do.
Although I have to mention this. I mean, there's a YouTuber behind that project, and the people behind that project are doing great miniatures. I mean, I don't want to disparage them in any way, but I took offense at the title of the video that YouTuber was making. Let me see if I can find that for you. And the title of the video was "We Can Do Better" or "You Can Do Better," something like that. And
yes,
I don't remember if I saw the entire video, but the premise was something like we can do we, as in 3D sculptors, we can make female models less sexualized. And
yes.
I don't understand that point at all.
They're being pretentious.
Well, again,
you learn to sculpt. You do them. I mean, why should I do it? I don't want to. I don't even understand the point.
We return to the previous point where we're talking about societal power influence in the current paradigm. And this is, like, I'm looking at their page right now. Their models look great and they're doing very well. And just to be clear as well, all power in the world for them to be able to do this. Fantastic. Yeah. There's an audience for it. Great. However, it is also very much so resting on the current dominant paradigm. Like, I despise the thing that I'm going to assume she's progressive, just judging by. If it's an unfair assumption, I apologize. But it is resting entirely on the current day paradigm of female models can't be sexy. And hers are not, by and large, from what I can see here. They are very male looking. They're flat as washing boards. Some of them are mildly sexual. So, yeah, that's something. Kind of. Why are you being a little whingy?
Thank you.
And it's very much so women in men's clothing. And okay, all right, if that's what you want, fantastic. Again, if there's a market for it, fantastic, even more so. But this is clearly a political point that's being made here. Like, oh, hey, we can do better. You don't get to decide what is better. This is your value judgment saying, hey, I want all of my female models to look like men. Okay, good for you.
Yep, you're being imperious. You're imposing your views on others. You're being tyrannical.
Yes, this is not an absolute. This is not a thing you can just say like, oh, this is better. No, it isn't.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And again, it is very much so resting on the current day paradigm, whereas we talked about previously, sexuality is bad. Like, and That's one of the beautiful pivots of the general feminist movement. Just a few years ago, there are literally parades of topless women marching through the streets, chanting about how empowering and liberating it is. And now it's like, you have a sexy female? How dare you?
Disgusting. They have furries.
Yeah, and the thing is, I don't think even women enjoy non-sexual. I mean, I think women at least enjoy sexualized models. I mean, the feedback I got from real women is, "Oh, great, she has a nice ass." You
I
know?
think a lot of women do. Like, honestly, I don't know. I have no data to back this up, but I don't think most people like androgynous, gender dimorphic model things or characters that you look at like, okay, what are you doing? Are you male? Are you female? What are you? What are you?
Yeah, probably because we're human. That's why people don't like that.
Here, show this one on screen, Kyle. And again, I feel like I'm being mean here, and I don't want to take the piss out of this person.
Meaner.
These are great models, okay? I just want to make that clear. But this is exactly what I mean when I point this out. Like, look at this, Eleanor. If you showed me this, no context, without the name, I would be pure guessing on gender. Pure guess.
Let's for a second put
Yeah.
gender aside. When you look at it, are you like, oh, that looks like a cool mini I want to pick up?
Well, it looks very neutral.
It looks very
to be
dry.
Bland.
I
for
feel
rest of
bad
what
for
I'm
this.
using.
I feel bad for the sculptor here because I've been on the receiving end of this as a commission artist. That I very often, when I have to do with companies, because aside from my Patreon, I also do commission work for companies, and they're very often very afraid of sexualizing content. And the most back and forth we have with the feedback is always about sexualizing women. And by sexualizing, I mean not sexualizing them at all. I mean the tiniest bit of cleavage that is required on a 28 millimeter miniature to signify that it's actually a female from, you know, from 3 feet away. They will protest. They will say, "No, change that.
Mhm.
Make her chest flatter." And I'm trying to explain to them that, you know, at the table, I mean, you might see the chest being quite pronounced at the render, but at the table 3 feet away, you're not going to see anything. You're barely going to see the chest, and you need that in order to understand that it's a female from 3 feet away. And I feel bad for the sculptor because I can tell from looking at this miniature that unless the sculptor themselves were, you know, woke, uh, they would probably have made quite a few changes to appease the woke aesthetic.
I do think a lot of this is very much so to appease that particular aesthetic. And even then, though, like, to be clear as well, like, not all of this is bad, because you can do a lot with posing and form as well. Like, I'll send this one over to Gibbs. This is a more evidently female model. She's still flat as a washboard, but she has
fine.
long hair, and she has a feminine stance. You know, that is something you can look at and go, like, yes, that's a female. Or this one again, a feminine stance, a little bit longer hair, a little bit more you know, thin ears kinda. Like, there are ways to show off this aesthetic that they wish to present, I guess. But I do not think this is in any way inherently superior to simply having a chick in a sling bikini, honestly.
The thing is,
Like, it's just taste.
I would quantify it as different flavors. You want a more serious flavor, you know, something like this. It's a lot more serious. You want, you know, sexy women, you can go with the more sexy approach. There's really no right answer here. It's just different flavors for different people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But again, that is
again,
exactly what pisses me off when they like
They're being pretentious.
You mentioned, yes, when they say like we must do better, as if your point of view is inherently better than anyone else's. And
that's arrogant of them to say that, and extremely ignorant, if you will.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's, like Arch said, like there's nothing wrong with his miniatures.
I
And
mean, if you want this, that's great. Good for you. But why can't we have our things? Why can't we coexist peacefully, huh? Like, what's up with that?
To illustrate the point, we can always just. This is the best part, of course. Whenever you need to illustrate a point in this particular regard, just flip the situation around and ask, would this be okay? Like, you make a video with your characters, like, we must do better. All these ugly female characters are repulsive.
It's gonna hurt
Yeah.
your
Less
feelings
clothing.
too. What, your feelings hurt? Oh, then now you know how we feel.
Exactly. Do you think the wokest crowd would then go like, oh, well, that's just your opinion, bro? Or do you think they'd burn down your house?
Both.
yeah, they probably report you for hate
They'll,
speech.
they'll say that's your opinion as they're lighting your house on fire.
No, I know exactly what they would probably say. They would say actions have consequences, and then
Oh
they'd
my
let your house on fire.
God, I hate that. Actions have consequences. So you killed him. It's like, yeah. Seems like a proportional response to somebody doing something I disagreed with.
Very much
There's
so.
nothing I can do. I just acted.
I couldn't tolerate the fact that he was different than me, so I had to make him stop permanently. You know, you do begin to
You
realize
succeeded.
how radical they are.
I do, again, though, again, sexiness. Sexiness is good, and it has a place in a tabletop wargaming hobby that is played, again, overwhelmingly by men. And the only reason why that is not broadly recognized to be true by every single fucking company that deals with this is the current political paradigm. Simple as.
Simple as. Look at this fucking Barch over here. Simple as. Just like dusts himself off.
Well,
Nerd.
it is. Kind of like, can I come up with something better? No. Carl, shut your mouth.
I'm
now.
just making fun of you for the sake of making fun of you. I don't need a reason to.
I do have one critique, though. Your tanks look very metal sluggy, and that triggers me.
I fucking actually, you know what's funny? I contacted him and I was like, I like the tank. That was the first thing I gravitated to. And that's because the tank is just chonky, it's fat, and it's like, I'm a chunky tank. And it's kind of great. That's what makes metal slug tanks great, too. They're fat. And you know what? A fat tank is a happy tank.
Yeah, I like the chunky aesthetic. I mean, everything I do is chunky.
I noticed. You deviant bastard. That's good.
That's no longer a tank, it's a tonk.
It looks great though. Like it looks chunky. It gives me almost like a little bit of that like Green Army Men's vibe to it, but a lot more detail. You know, remember those Green Army Men tanks? I think they were the what, M80s or whatever? The Pattons. That's what the plastic
M60s.
army men.
Yeah.
Yeah. They would sell you. They came with like little patents. It reminds me of the Patton, and I like the Patton's bulbous look.
Yeah, that's a pretty tank right there. The pattern.
The
I
pattern.
have a photograph with me on top of a M60 pattern, actually.
Pattons are cute.
Wow.
Yeah.
You're both weird.
They're adorable. We need to bring them back into service.
The pattern is not adorable. It's retarded looking.
It's
particularly
cute.
with the dumbass turret.
The turret is the highlight. It's like it's got a little cute hat with a little machine gun. Like, hey, I'm a little turret.
It's ridiculous. Particularly also when you put the infrared light on it. It just makes it even dumber looking.
Now
it looks
it's
like
cuter.
I don't even know. Like it's like a Swiss Army knife, but comical. Like it has too many dumb things just nailed onto
I
it.
don't know why, but when I look at the patent, I feel like this urge to just be like, yeah, you know, everything's gonna be okay. It's a cute tank.
It's not though. That's the problem.
We
Like
need-
that's you're objectively
We need to
incorrect.
we need to give them to third world countries and make them fight each other like we normally do, and watch them use the patents.
I think you already did.
Well, you can do it again.
I think we recently scrapped them in Greece. I mean, they were using them until very recently.
Why would you scrap the patent? It's so cute. What a
Well, scrap them
waste.
probably means they're stuck in a warehouse somewhere. That's probably what it
It's like,
means.
oh, their optics are bad. Not a problem. If you have enough of them, it won't really matter.
Well, I don't know about that. Judging by the Russians' performance lately.
Optics aren't the be all and end all, okay?
Even the chat is already raping you for this terrible opinion.
They're like, see, they're agreeing. They're like, yeah, it's all chunky, and they're like, it's a patent, looks like a kid's tank. That's why it's like when you bought bags of Green Army Men and it came with like a vehicle, it came with a patent. It was the toy tank.
Yeah, it's the quintessential tank shape.
It's the tankiest
I mean,
tank that could
when
be.
you draw, when you draw a tank, when you're a kid and you're drawing a tank, you're drawing a pattern.
Yep, it's a patent. It's got that iconic shape that you just like artistically, it's great. Now, design-wise, we could talk about flaws, but I'm just saying from the artistic point of view. It's a cute tank. Iconic. It's memorable. Ice cream man.
Continue
tank.
digging the hole.
I'm not digging a hole. I stand on this hill. This is the patent hill.
You stand at the bottom of a very deep ditch and scream.
This patent is cute. I also stand by the Sherman's also kind of cute. And that the M3 Lee is kind of cute too. Yeah, everybody.
The M3 Lee is the best looking tank ever made.
Oh my god, it's fucking adorable. It's like a little bunker with...
It's weird. And
like-
it's yeah.
It's like the British
It's my favorite tank.
Independent. I like the British Independent or the Soviet T-28E. Also cute as fuck. It's got little turrets on it. Why do they? I don't know. They just put them.
Yeah.
I love tanks with little turrets. Austro-Hungarian tanks are great because they're just awful.
Well, now I know why your military designs are so weird, Kyle. They're all punks.
Tonkums.
Well, I sigh in disgust, but that's all I can do at this point.
Deep down inside, a part of you's like, yeah, the M3 Lee, like, yeah, it was retarded, but at the same time, it's kind of just like, it looks at you and you're like, well, I kind of want to, just allow it to be the main tank.
No, the M3 Lee was pretty adorable. I can't disagree with that. But it had a reasonable theorem behind it too, though, because at the time,
For a
the
different
conventional wisdom was that you'd have two types of tanks. One of the tanks would deal with other tanks, and one of the tanks would deal with infantry. That was the German, the French, the British. They all advanced this idea. And the Americans, who couldn't even design armored vehicles at the time, like the heaviest thing they'd built was a Jeep that fell apart after 5 minutes, were like, hold on, what if we do a tank that can do both? And instead of going like, we'll just vary up the ammunition. No, we make two tanks, but one.
One tank, two tanks, one body. And
that was the
comes-
M3 Lee, with a fat anti-infantry cannon in the hull, a high-velocity 37mm in the turret, and then a heavy machine gun on top, just because, it looked stupid without a third turret.
Didn't it have another little ball turret on the hull?
It did have a little turret on the hull, too, I think.
God,
some variants, at least.
That way, when it shoots forward, it shoots a lot of things forward. It's good. It's got the American philosophy. It doesn't really matter. It's just be a weapons platform that fires things forward. And that was a good idea for a different war.
Wow. Don't know if it was ever truly a good idea, but it certainly did exist.
Listen. They didn't realize war was going to become mobile and gross and cringe. Like, things would be easy to move around. Lame.
Oh, God,
they got so many things wrong, and which is something to talk about this day and age. I mean, by the mid 1942 to 43, the Germans were designing the Tiger. They thought that not having armor that is not sloped is better, and they were obviously wrong. But that's what they thought at the time. I mean, people get a lot of things wrong, and I think we very often disregard this nowadays. I mean, we think that people who are designing these things, they know everything, and they don't. They get a lot of things wrong.
Well, for a lot of them, it simply hadn't occurred to them. Like,
Yeah.
they was just like, sloping the armor? What? Why?
Why would you do that? What are you, cringe? You got Soviet? Only Soviets do that.
Those they learned of. The Soviets and the Germans even had a... God damn it, we need to wrap this up before I wander off on a fucking tangent. One last point.
Time.
The Soviets and the Germans had a arms treaty where they told each other about their tanks and they tried to figure stuff out because the Germans weren't allowed to build tanks. So they built light tractors instead in the Soviet Union to play around with them. And the Soviets were like, this can't be the heaviest thing they're planning because they were looking at the light tractor one and the Panzer ones like, that's retarded. Meanwhile, they were doing like the BT-5 prototypes, and the Germans were looking at them and going like, that can't be the heaviest thing they were building. And only one of them was right, because the Soviets were like, yeah, that is the heaviest thing they were building. The Germans were like, this will be fine. There's 2 machine guns. What could it possibly need?
Until they, got those Czech tanks.
It's sad how the Czech tanks was actually improvement for the Germans. Like, holy shit, the tank.
I'm telling you.
To be fair, the 3 and 4 had into service by then, and it was hilarious because the 3 was originally intended to have a 37 millimeter cannon because they were like, that's fine. But one of the, I think, was it Guderian? I think it was Guderian who insisted, like, hold on, okay, 50 mil. We'll never need anything bigger than that, but we need 50 mil at least. At the end of the World War, there's fucking 128 millimeter packs. Like, things have evolved.
Heavier and heavier.
The Soviets were mounting fucking naval artillery on their vehicles even before that time. The KV-2 is a beautiful thing. Like, what if we mount a destroyer cannon on a tank?
I am destroyer tank.
But nothing, of course, tops the Germans who saw that and went, what if we made a 380 millimeter rocket-propelled mortar?
The Broombar.
No, Kyle. Not the Broombar.
What's the other one? The Sturmtiger.
The train.
I would get the Broombar and Sturmtiger mixed up.
The Sturmtiger. It had it literally fired a 380 millimeter rocket. It was just dumb.
Big boom.
It is such a brilliant little vehicle because it's just an enormous armored casemate. It was 150 odd millimeters thick, I think. Like, it was just stupid. It had to have its own little adorable crane at the back to reload ammunition because there wasn't enough space inside the fucking vehicle. Oh well. It allows us to have it in video games now, so that's good. But anywho, I wanted to start wrapping it up with Super Chats and taking some questions from chat. We'll do that as an end thing where we see if there's any questions for Tsipis.
There you go.
God damn it.
Chipish.
Chipotle.
Yeah, you got it right. You got it
Chipotle?
right.
Chipotle?
Chipotle.
Think about
Chipotle.
actually.
It's a brand. I want my Chipotle
For,
taco thing.
That would be a good time to insert an ad. Would it, YouTube? Would it truly?
Now make it a Chipotle ad. Can you pick?
Right, so Glowy says 1 billion from Saudi. I want a Allah Akbar terrorist tabletop, unit of 10 suicide vest Arabs, 3 IEDs, 30 child soldiers, and a HQ hiding in a cave. Let's not forget, money doesn't create creativity, or Disney would have less flops. That is true. Like, we are often guilty of going like, oh, hey, this company has a lot of money now. Surely they'll use it for something. And, well, frighteningly frequently, they use it for hookers, literally.
Mm. Yeah, there is
Like,
bloat
what
in
did you do
corporate,
with that
so
money? All of the cash just disappears. But we will, wait and see. If fancy if I can do something. Geno Zisix says, greetings, hellish abomination. Have a pleasant evening. There's no joke, no cringe today, as my head aches. Wow, Car's a hellish abomination. It's a bit cruel.
What? How did you segue into me? Get out.
A load of metal man. Hey, gents. 2 weeks since only male Space Marines announcement, and still the salt flows. Also, Arch Black Library authors tier list video when. That is true. They were very annoyed by that, and I'm quite happy for it. I hope they write more cringy-ass articles for me to rip into, because it's good business.
I was thinking of doing female Space Marines as a joke, but after all that debacle with the male Space Marine announcement, essentially, it got me thinking. I'm gonna do male Sisters of Battle, That's what I'm
I was
going to do
about
next.
to say, what you should do is just meme buff Sisters of Battle. Like, have them all do, like, bodybuilder poses and shit.
Yeah, yeah.
You
I
call
might
it
do that.
Brothers of Battle.
And
Yeah,
have them
yeah.
be the gayest thing imaginable. So you've got dudes doing bodybuilder poses. They've got those little purity icons as nipple rings and shit.
You know
Just
what?
proper gay.
I'm going to do that, and I'm going to give it to you, to everybody in your channel. How's that? I'm not going to sell that. I'm just going to give it away.
That would be cool. Oh, that would be kind of funny. Just male Sisters of Battle. Their flamer. One of them just has a flamer cock sleeve attachment. He fires by thrusting his hip. I die, infidel. Thrust. Actually, here. Have you ever heard of something called hard gay?
Ooh, spicy. Hard gay. Send it to me.
I'm gonna take that as a no. Right.
Yep,
Here
can
you
we
go.
pull it up for chat or no? Oh,
Yeah, it's
never mind.
safe-ish.
I thought it was like a meme. Never mind. I take that back. Take it back.
It is a meme. It's safe-ish. So this is a
Okay.
Japanese game show kind of thing. It's pretty old. It's pretty old, but you can still find clips of it on YouTube. As you can see here, judging by the teeny weeny resolution, it is old.
Oh, that's
And it was a
classic vibe.
Yep, big buff Japanese dude who put on full leather suits and just acted as stereotypically gay as he could, and he was fucking hilarious.
Yahoo Japan. She looks not happy. She's like, what do I do with this guy?
That's because I think he's actively hip thrusting at the same time as he's talking to her.
I like this dude in the first picture you sent me. Like, he's just looking like he's like, this is my life now.
Yep. It was a hilarious show. I highly recommend everyone look up Hard Gay on YouTube. It should still be there. It's great.
See, I saw Razor on the top, and I was like, "Oh no, Razor Fist, what have you done?" He's taking a new turn, a new avenue to explore.
Well, he does wear leather.
That's true. Razor Fist likes leather.
Brett Versheim says, you'd be surprised how much of Robert Heinlein was used from 40k from Starship Troopers to Lazarus Longs for the Perpetuals. I don't even know if I would be surprised how much GW is ripped off. Like, they have borrowed heavily from many settings. There's little doubt about this.
Did they ever
There's
return
even,
those things, though?
There was even the classic ripoff where there's this one art piece where the Space Marine is like having his helmet put on him by this robotic arm, and it is a straight copy from one of the Starship Troopers covers, and it's just like, yep.
Oh yeah, the really cool Starship Troopers cover. Yeah.
Yep. The hand of borrowing is powerful. What can I say?
And they're just like, "Ooh, that looks nice," and like, "Oh, thank you," and then they just grab it.
Vito
Is that-
Cheeto,
is that
mine now.
mine? He just put a Games Workshop logo on it and Warhammer 40,000 stickers. Like, it's Warhammer now. Is this a Warhammer? Question mark.
Shadowfox 2300 says, so basically a 3D printer is just like a welding machine with all the stuff you need for safety. I don't know. Questionable comparisons, but
You
A
have to be
welding
pretty
machine.
careful. Yeah, you have to be pretty careful, I'd say. Especially
Ah.
if you have children in the house, especially.
Oh yeah.
welding
Fucking
machines
imagine.
are nice and safe. Just stare into the flame. It'll only make your eyes itch a little bit.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that's not a good idea.
And the other thing is that disposing of anything coming out of the printer, you need to first cure the resin because that thing will never cure. So essentially, if you live in a sunny area, you just leave it outside for a bit. If you're in
not-
Norway, I have no idea what you do.
Just dump it.
He
It's fine.
prays
Yeah.
to Thor. He's like, please come, save me. Zappy, zappy.
VMC Wolverine says, "Yo, what's up, Arch? And Kibbs, I'm watching while trying to do some painting on my Blood Ravens. Any suggestions on where to find some pinup decals? I'm wanting to put some on my Space Marine tanks." No, honestly.
Greek boy, now's your chance.
What pinups?
Sexy pinups.
Pinup decals to put on tanks.
Decals. Oh, okay.
Yeah, like little stickers for the tank.
Yeah, I think if you search online, you should be able to find way to make your own decals, but that's probably more complicated than I am thinking. But there's definitely a way to do that.
I'm also proud of both of you. You pronounce decal. No, decal. Oh, no. Freudian slip. See, gosh darn Canadian man taught me, or tried to teach me that decal is pronounced decal. And I've...
Oh, yeah, I've heard about that, yeah.
It's driving me insane right now. A decal.
A decal.
Is that the right pronunciation?
No, it's decal.
Okay.
Don't believe the heretics that say decal.
It's like when Kyle says aluminum. It's awful.
Aluminum. Well, how else would you pronounce aluminum? It's aluminum.
It's aluminium.
Ugh. That's like some sort of cringe sci-fi thing. Get out of here.
Dragon Master Outcast says, "Hey Arch, just got through the Return of Nagash. I thought it was good, but it's a end times novel, so probably have different ideas on subject. Some of the end time novels aren't bad. Like the Nagash ones, for example, were not bad. It's just that everything they did after that was bad. Like if it were just that, I'd be happy with it. But then they decided, and then the world blew up.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's the part I have a problem with.
The end times books are really cool. I got all like the Skaven ones, the big collectors ones and stuff, and like reading about the battles, the fighting the lizardmen and stuff. Those were cool actually. It's just the lizardmen dead fucked off to space, and then I was like, what? So they're like
climbed aboard their pyramids and lifted off. Whoosh.
They're like, we're leaving now. Bye. It's like, well, okay, all right.
Lord of the Opossum says, "Arch, not for the common man. Not for the common man. The common man is cringe. Possum is a common man."
It's titanium.
Titanium?
They're like, how does he pronounce titanium? It's titanium.
Titanium.
And they're like, is he going to say titanum? Fucking what?
But at that time, any chance you can get Razorfist in contact with Dev? Why would I ever want to enforce Dev upon poor Razorfist? That's cruel.
Razor isn't ready for Dev. Like, no one's ready for Dev.
Like, that better be a damn good reason. Like, Dev better be dying.
Like, Dev's like,
just
I've
lying there on the
always
ground.
wanted to talk to you, Razorfist, to be cringe near you.
My last wish before dying of, what's something Canadian to die from? Cringe. There you go.
That's very Canadian.
I want to speak to Razorfist. Like, in that case, I'll consider it. Maybe.
If he pays you.
Maybe.
And me.
Lord of the Opossums then sends in like 17 messages. Okay, let's go through them. Can you make a Kibbs model? I'm presuming that is a question for you then.
Come again? I didn't get the question.
Can you make a Kibbs model?
A Kibbs model? Yeah, of course I can. I'll do it.
He's gonna do it. You heard it here, Chant.
An overweight bearded man. There you go.
Damn, not overweight. Beard, yes.
Hobbyist, why are models so expensive? Hobbyist, buys $1,000 models. Yes, that is kind of the problem. Like, how dare you charge me £2.50 for a pot of paint Games Workshop? This is outrageous. Ka-ching.
You know, a lot of the purchases that I'm seeing in the, let's not say competitive scene, but semi-competitive scene, it's happening after you've had been, after you've lost a game badly against the pick of the month. And
Yes.
you just go out there and buy the thing that's going to counter that other thing.
Wait, that is a very clear part of GW's business model, in that they will make certain things pretty goddamn OP, and intentionally so, and then you'll get your ass pounded by it, and then be, oh, that was unfair. Yeah.
And then you look for the thing that can at least fight it equally or in some manner.
Like, why
And
the
that
fuck do you
thing
think
costs
they
100 quid.
reintroduced, like, Marnus Calgar on the tabletop? It's because you put Marnus Calgar on the tabletop, he cream pies your entire army single-handedly, and then suddenly $250 doesn't seem like that much money.
It's kind of funny.
You probably
true.
mean Gulliman.
It's
then.
such pay-to-win bullshit, though.
Gilliman, yes, Girly Man.
Yeah, yeah.
Rowboat
Because
Girly Man.
I recently killed Marnus Calgar with a knob with a power claw. He seemed incredibly easy to kill because there were Black Templars on the table as well, and they weren't dying at all.
Yes, Caligar has gotten a bit nerfed over, but Girly Man is hilarious.
Yeah.
Particularly when he first was released. See, I keep confusing the two now because Manus Calgar is the only true master of the Ultramarines because fucking Girly Man.
He's unemployed now, Marnus Calgar.
Marnus Calgar. He's the spiritual liege, okay? And he's dead, mind you. Marnus Calgar is dead. The person wearing his armor now is a fake.
Oh yeah,
so
that's
says
right.
official canon.
Is it?
Yep.
Yes, they killed him off in a Marvel comic.
Oh, that doesn't count then.
As far as I'm concerned, that's lore now.
Okay, all right. A Marvel comic? What?
Yep.
A one-off Marvel comic killed him. And the real Calgar that you think you have as Calgar is actually some pretend wannabe.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
Just like, thank you.
It was just some random kid, the runt of the litter, who stole his name because he wanted to.
Not better to use his name than Runt Kid name.
Yep. He was just a slave. He wasn't ever going to be an Ultramarine. Such a stupid thing. Lord of the Possum says, to guest, who is your favorite faction?
Orcs.
Orcs and sling bikinis when.
Oh no.
That was actually one of the grievances that I was hearing back in, I want to say 2000, what was it? 2005, 2004? No, 2007, 2008, something like that. I was hearing grievances from the few woke people that existed back then that it's outrageous that there are no female orcs. And
What?
I was like, what? That's not there are no male orcs. Orcs don't have a gender. They're mushrooms.
That's the problem. It's just looking for an in. Just looking for an in.
Yeah.
They failed with that. Then they tried with the Space Marines next.
Yeah.
And we'll keep trying until they get it. Lord Thwasm also says, to guest, thoughts on the Ultra Smurfs?
I personally play Imperial Fists. I really like the vanilla type of Space Marine. That's the kind of Space Marine that I like. So I can't disparage the Ultramarines too much now. I understand why people hate Ultramarines. Probably has something to do with the Mutt Ward period, when he was making the Ultramarines like gods versus everything else. But I don't have a problem with Ultramarines. I find them cool, and I think the people who play Ultramarines, they're cool people to play with because they don't take the ultra, not essentially competitive, but ultra cool. Like they don't take the Black Templars, they don't take the Blood Angels that drink blood. They just want their blue army men, you know.
I can see it. Poor Ultramarines. They've been lambasted for both being the vanilla Marines, which they were, and for Matt Ward.
Yeah.
Fucking Matt Ward.
I always heard that Matt Ward wasn't told that his book was going to be used the way it was. Not sure if that story has any merit.
Being an apologist for the Ward?
No. Asking for clarification.
Tosses under bus.
Barchy's never heard this story, so Barchy's going to quickly attack Kib. The illogical thing to do, of course.
Lord of the Awesome says, I say, let the hordes of GW lawyers come. We will be ready. We will hold the line by not buying the products. Hold the line, hold your wallet. Well, We'll see about that.
This problem is there's too many whales.
There's a lot of people who are willing to spend a lot of money on it.
That's like the same thing when people were like, "WoW's gonna die," and then WoW just keeps going. It's like, yeah, it's too big. Like, it'll die eventually, but it'll take a long time.
Mm-hmm. He also asks, sexy deathcore of Krieg and sexy orcs when?
Sexy orcs never. Sexy death course of Krieg. That's not a bad idea.
It
Actually.
can be arranged, he says.
Yeah.
Lord Metalman, did you guys see that Commissar Gamza got a GW copyright claim on his Patreon STL files? Yes, we did hear about that briefly, and, well, I don't want to be mean, but I would not take that model to court. Because, as we talked about previously, it is about style, aesthetic, and whether or not the common man, I guess that's what Possum was pointing out, whether or not the common man, or, so average Joe Fuckaroony on the street, will be able to identify it as the thing. And those undead metal skeleton people did look an awful lot like Necrons.
The problem,
Yeah,
I think,
I
was the
agree with that,
silhouette.
yeah.
The silhouette
Yeah.
was the issue, I think.
The weapon too, like the only differential on the Immortals weapon is that its bayonet is larger. Like that's
It also
a
had a weird
problem.
nut thing at the back. But I think, like, you really need to differentiate the silhouette because, like, if you look at Tsipis, Tsipis,
Tsipis.
Sippies, yes, Sipums. If you look at
Cruel.
if you look at his mini, god damn it, like I'll pull up some of these pictures real quick. No, not that one. There we go. I actually pulled up the woke one, but you'll notice the silhouette of this tank, very unique. You look at the silhouette of the like looking at the silhouette of that, I couldn't I'd be like, what's that? I've never seen that before. Like it's very unique to its aesthetic. Like, I look at this and I don't, get out of here. It's kind of stupid. Get rid of this woke fucking minis. I look at the silhouette of these minis and they're very distinct. Like, very. And I'm not just saying that because they have massive breasts or the fact that they're all perky. But, well, no, most. Some of them aren't, The fabric's a little thick, so it helps. But they do have a distinct silhouette. And I think that's what helps really differentiate it at a glance. And even if you lean back in your chair at a distance as well.
Yeah, I think Commissar Gamza got the problem were the Immortals. They were very similar, and I like the guy. I like the guy a lot.
He seems like a good
But-
guy.
Yeah, but I don't understand why he got DMCA'd on his Chimera type of IFV vehicle. That didn't look at all like a GW Chimera.
I haven't seen that one, so I can't comment on it. Chimera it's a conspicuous name, but depending on how different it was, that might be bullshit. Hell, some of it might be bullshit. I've only seen the Immortal and the Necron Overlord thing, which has literally an Orb of Resurrection, which is again like that's.
It's a little different, just a little bit more. Like, also change up the shape and change up the pose, make it something very distinct.
The shape, the chest piece, the weapon needs to change more than that. And they've also used the head from the robot from Judge Dredd.
I mean, I kinda
again,
like that
copyright
touch.
is a very subtle and very interpretive thing, but those are difficult.
Look, and the thing is that any other creator could have gotten away with it, but Gamza has a large following. I mean, people notice him. That's that. I think that was the main issue.
Yep.
Because
That as well.
I've seen models that are a lot closer to GW's IP,
And
and they go under the radar.
Yep, the publicity thing is both a blessing because he can use
Yeah.
that to propel himself forward, but it's also bad because he's also like every content creator has a lot of people that don't like them. And the bigger you
Yeah.
are, the more people don't like you. So they'll look for any excuse to go after you. And it only takes a couple of snitches that need stitches to really fucking tank something. Especially if you're doing something like, making what I'll call them parody models.
Mm.
It paints a target on your back. And GW figures that they won't get any negative publicity from going after you, so.
Which is a shame. But, I mean, hopefully that doesn't happen to him again.
Lord of the Bosom says, under communism, Kyle's cheeks are our cheeks. Correct.
Wow. Disgusting.
Marked ashamed. Antifa confirmed in Japan. There was mostly peaceful protests in Japan celebrating the death of the former PM. Well, mostly peaceful.
Oof.
That's good, at least. John the Dark says, Arch, don't forget WAP is classic sex sells. I don't know if WAP is sex sells, honestly. I would actually contend that argument, or contend, because I don't think that's sexy. I think that's degeneracy. And I do draw a line between the two. A very clear line. There can be sexy, and then there's WAP. WAP is just... like, that is the kind of egregious, over-the-top hedonism that is happily embraced by the modern-day progressive. It's also a black woman, remember? And they play by very different rules than everyone else, as the recent film, for example. Okay. We are going to have to watch this film, Kyle.
Oh, no.
There's a film called, like... Woman King or something like that that's coming out in September, and it's about the Dahomey Amazons, and it's being portrayed as such a they fought for freedom, they fought for their rights. It's the Dahomey Amazons. They were some of the most vicious, brutal, violent slavers in human fucking history.
I mean, I like movies about bad guys, you know, if they're done right. Like Revenge of the Sith was about a bad guy. You know? Could have cool bad guy stuff going on. No, I'm kidding. It's
But yes, WAP was degeneracy. Like, it wasn't sexy. It wasn't attractive. Like, I don't know. Does anyone watch that? Like, where the opening shot is implying that these women are so horny that their pussy juices have created a literal flood down the stairs and go, that's hot.
That's kind of gross.
It is. You're wading through it now.
Like, there's a thing as such as tasteful, you know, sexy, as in classy. And then there's being a goddamn whore. And I consider that the latter.
Precisely. Like, even goddamn whores aren't usually this whorish.
That's true.
Fucking WAP. Lord of the Blossom says, I agree, man must control woman's sexiness. I agree too. If you own a woman, if she's your property, she must be kept inside. No comments. Good.
We're just going to let you hang yourself.
GW is cracking down on 3D printing. They already DMCA'd Comsa Gamsa's Patreon. I don't know if that's them cracking down on 3D printing. I would say that's them cracking down very specifically on Gamsa for the moment until we see more about it. And again, those Necromon models are an issue. The Chimera one, I don't know about, so I'll leave that up in the open. Lord of the Opossum says, Space Rat RP when Arch? Soon. Soon being the operational term for any time between now and the return of Jesus. Lord of the Opossum also has Sexy Skaven model. When?
No.
Oh my god.
It's
What's wrong with you people?
slippery slope looking. You might have a teddy bear as a profile pic. That's a teddy bear, right?
Is that a teddy bear?
He's like, I will not answer that question. What is it? It's a hedgehog?
Kyle could be staring at a giant spiked dildo and go like, teddy bear.
Is it a squirrel? He's awfully quiet. He's kind of scared.
Fishing is a better hobby than Warhammer. No, fishing is fucking gay. It's true. Really fucking gay. Marked ashamed. Fantasy Flight was bought by Asmodee, and the Star Wars license has been moved to Atomic Mass Games. Has it now? Atomic Mass Games. Bought by Asmodee. I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But they still keep the Fantasy Flight logo and...
It's a French publisher. Spitz. Well, maybe something good will come out of it. Who knows? Phil Moore, is Dune worth a read? Well, that's a complicated question, Phil.
It's a very heavy read at the front. Like, it's one of those books I read in middle school and was like, my fucking head.
I mean, that's Kyle's standards. I would not call Dune a particularly heavy read.
There are plots within plots, and depending, like, you do need to pay actual close attention, especially to, like, the little subtle nuances and culture and build-up. Because there's actually quite a bit to the Dune Frank Herbert books.
You do need to pay a bit of attention, but you don't ever selling the print.
Or just
What
like,
I
I
would
just
say
sort of
instead
page through them.
is that it contains a great deal of lingo, which is often not explained particularly well. And if you haven't gotten the lingo explained the first time around, the book is unlikely to explain it again. Which is why a certain part of the book can seem very confusing at times. Like, he's a worm now? Yes. I'd recommend at least like the first like arc of the book when they're on Arrakis. The rest of that, yeah.
March, have you read the Dune books?
I have.
Because I'm pretty sure the first book, they're not on Arrakis in the beginning, but I think it focuses on Arrakis, at least from my memory.
Yes, that's what I said.
Bjorch, I don't think that's what you said. Rephrase it.
I said I
Go back to the
did
beginning.
focus on the first few books that focus on Arrakis.
That's better. Continue.
That's what. This is how you fucking deaf little monk.
I just had to make sure. My autism demanded it.
Maranga 2 says, look at Beyond the Gates of Antares models, please. I gave some and their rather different GW aesthetic. Aesthetic. You have an in there. Aesthetic.
Alright, what are they called? Antares? Antares what?
Gates of Antares.
Yeah, Beyond the Gate of Antares. It's a game from Rick Priestley, I believe.
Beyond the Gate
I remember we tried to look at this page once. It's the one with the really, really bad design.
Oh god. Do they have a website like Catalyst Games Labs? Where
Yes.
it's just awful?
Worse, actually.
Oh, this is horrible. Oh my god, why? I'm gonna pull it up for...
It also contains a lot of clickable elements that look clickable that aren't actually clickable. It's a bit of a painful website.
Oh, never. Oh, they haven't fixed... I hate it. Well, those people look like they got little zits on them. You can't make the picture bigger.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So
I mean, it
it's a
might be
bit
interesting,
different,
but
okay.
but it does need, like, oh god, redo the website. I feel like this was made for a mobile, because look at all this negative space here. Like, what is this? Make a PC version, damn it.
Yeah, it looks like bolt action in terms of rules. I mean, looking at the dice here and the pin markers.
Some of the models look cool though.
Yeah, well, they definitely look different.
I can't really tell though because they're so tiny.
Yeah.
I can't make the pictures bigger.
Yeah.
Like, they look neat from a distance, I guess. Like, what is... I can't... How do you make the pictures bigger? Criminy sake. Oh my goodness, there's no... Okay, you know what, Google? Let's just Google some pictures of it. Surely somebody's taken bigger pictures.
You say that.
That's already bigger by a bit. There's weird zip people.
But you know, this is one of the things that we were talking about earlier. I mean, we're looking at this set now, and there could be something really cool in the lore, really cool in the world. I mean, much like the Jedi's in the Star Wars universe, which otherwise looks just a regular sci-fi setting. But the problem is, it's one of bandwidth. I mean, you're not going to give it the time to read through the lore.
Mhm.
You're just going to give it one glance, and that's that. You're not going to dig any deeper.
Yep, you need something capable of grabbing people's attention sufficiently at the first glance to make them give a shit. Like, the information needs to be immediately available right then and there in your face. Like, there needs to be a big eye-catching picture that expands into a little bit of lore, and that needs to be like super cool. They need to be like, man, I want to see more of that.
Mm.
And that's not easy to do, but it's what you're gonna have to do.
You know what they're doing? Look at their cover art. Like, it's following the 40K formula of just like bunch of dudes making a stand, doing a fight, doing a battle. And while that was cool in the olden days, like I will even say this, like modern 40K, like it's just boring. It's like it's just a bunch of dudes clumped up, you know, waiting to be artillery to death.
It is the blah 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 Crimson Fist's Last Stand picture.
Yeah.
Come on, load. God damn it, pictures. Look at that thing.
Nolly says Metal Slug Abrams Lehman Russ tank. Yes, please. Good. Viking Kiwi, I bought a burger. I ate the burger. Now I feel fat. How could you do this to me? You did this to you. You ate the burger. Now you are overweight.
He said, "Oh, I became obese all of a sudden." That's one hell of a burger. It's a big one. That's like the, oh my god, they do make huge burgers at some places though.
You are over encumbered, you might even say.
Damn, can't even move.
There's this one particular form of pastry that I love, but it makes me feel super bloated, and I hate myself for loving it because I eat it and then I feel bloated, and I'm just like, I feel like I wobble when I walk now. And so you just sit there massaging your overweight tummy and like, God, why is there so much of me? But the pastry was tasty though. And so you continue doing that forever and ever. This is just your life now. Speaking of, Kyle, entertain everyone. I have urge for pastry now.
Okay, pork chop. Greek boy, how you doing?
I'm doing well.
That's good.
It's 2:30 in the morning here though, so I'm getting a bit tired, to be honest.
Yeah, no, he came in late, by the way, so he's a true trooper.
That's no problem though. I usually go to sleep at that time.
Damn, you're
So
a
that's fine.
late night owl, huh? Stay up late.
That's fine though, because it's really hot here. So
yeah, you're in Greece. I can imagine.
yeah, so this time it's actually really nice. It's pretty cool outside, so that's.
Well, that's neat. Neato Cheeto. By the way, for tabletop stuff, what plans do you have for upcoming projects? Because I assume you're starting to think out. Because everybody always does. Like, okay, what am I doing after this?
I already have a project running actually, which is going to be. I don't want to say much because people are listening, and I don't know who's listening, but it's going to be a sort of revision of not revision, not a remake. It's because it's definitely not a remake, but let's say one of the old 90s games that I'm trying to remaster in a way, from a company that might have been mentioned today.
That should be interesting.
Yeah, but it's going to be print to play. Everything's going to be printable, boards, dice, pretty much everything.
Well, that's good.
But that's gonna take a while.
Oh yeah, no, I know the feeling entirely.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be for next year.
Yep. Sometimes making your own IP is gonna take a lot of work and a lot of effort. But honestly, I do believe that that's well worthwhile because you'll have something that you can call your own.
Yeah. But again, the problem is that people won't invest in it, and in terms of time. I mean, because the problem with wargaming is always getting other people to play the wargame that you're mentioning, you're proposing.
Yep.
People just want to stick, and the same is true with RPGs. I mean, people want to play D&D; they don't want to play anything else.
Yep,
because that's what they know.
You're absolutely right in that regard. That's kind of why I cultivated my own audience, and when I proposed my own tabletop stuff, I was able to get people that lined up willingly to be interested in my war game. And I honestly, it is a bit of a hassle, but starting to create a community or creating like a network of people, it does pay benefits, especially if you want to go the independent route, because then you don't have to rely on a big publisher, you don't have to rely on big investors to get the name shout outs. You can use the power of word of mouth. Which can sometimes be really good.
Yeah, but you need to be super motivated yourself. I mean, right? I mean, how long have you been working on your project?
On and off since like I was a little kid, because I was like, I want to make a game, but I had no idea what I was
Oh,
doing.
okay. So you're very motivated.
Yep,
Right.
aspirations. I am committed all the way, so to speak.
Okay.
There's no alternative. This is a one-way trip.
It is Kyle's one redeeming feature that his
Autistic.
motivation seal makes up for his complete and utter lack of talent.
Wow, that's rude.
Okay.
Extremely rude.
I'd say it's almost
Segue into an apology. That's what you need to do.
I think it's almost a good thing. In fact, I think it's praise. Yes.
See, look at that. He's like segueing. Like, I do feel a little bad. Like,
I believe it is a compliment, is what you would call it in common parlance. Yes.
or just like navigating this terrain. Like, you gotta give him credit, dude. Like, the dude knows how to wiggle words a lot. Oh, that was cute. Welcome back. Assume the pastry.
It is definitely a compliment. No, the pastry is gonna have to unfreeze now for like 2 hours.
Oh, never mind.
The way of the pastry is difficult and often fraught with dangers and deviations to plans.
If we ever have an office, Arch, it's the freezer's gonna be stuffed with goddamn pastries.
If ever I have an office and you squat inside of it, you mean the freezer will be
This
mine.
is a team effort, you traitorous whore.
This is an employment contract, you slave.
Look at him. Always gotta be at the top, that blonde bimbo.
Yes. Tanushi says either send in the M3 Lee or the M2 medium. The M2 medium. Actually, you know what? There are better American tanks. Okay. What was it? The Americans have made better things. Let's see. What was the name of it?
Find it. Give me a picture.
Don't know if I want to go that far. The M48 Starship variant of the pattern.
Oh god, is that what I'm thinking is? M4 Starship.
It's got a
M4,
adorable little tiny
M48.
cannon. The Starship.
Oh, that thing's retarded.
Just a bit, little bit. Just a little bit.
I like
Oh,
how
it's
the
pretty cute.
first one I find is a literal plastic Green Army Men variant. Look at it. It is also cute. It's got the cute turret. You know, they understand that turrets need to be cute and have little guns on them.
Tonishi says, cheapish, pay back your debts, T.A. Finn.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
Well, whoops.
Terranin Secundus, Warhammer overshadows most war games, yet I've always had a soft spot for Infinity. An interesting sci-fi setting board game has everything from neo-Islam, lol no, to an all AI post-human faction, knights in space, and more. That is kind of the problem, yes, because you guys mentioned these things to me, and like, Arch, look at this thing, and I'm like, what the fuck even is this? Some tiny niche thing that exists in nobody's mentions ever, and that is almost always what it is. Like, it is tiny, because GW has just such a complete and utterly ridiculous stranglehold over the entire miniature industry.
People who need to get into minis need to do more PR. Sippy, get on it.
I wouldn't know how to do it, man. That's a problem.
Listen, stick with me, kid. I'll show you the ropes. Yeah.
Infinity though, it's not small at all. I think, they've been around for quite a while.
Who? I'm sorry. I know that doesn't
Yeah.
sound good. Infinity Tabletop, right?
Yeah.
I'm not super familiar with names. Game Tabletop.
And they have some really interesting looking miniatures, actually.
Uh,
But they seem. I mean, every time I looked at their games, it wasn't clear what I had to do in order to start playing that game. That was my main issue with that.
oh, they got some cool looking power armor, dude. Here, I'll pull this up.
Hmm.
Infinity Code 1 Ariadna. Blackjacks. 10th Heavy Ranger Battalion. That looks pretty slick.
Does it? Does it truly?
Yeah, kind of. Reminds me
But-
of the Starship Troopers cartoon anime.
The problem is always going to be that you need to convince at least one more person to get invested in the game.
Yes, you need to get
play
a
the
friend to do it, and that's the trick.
That's not easy. Yeah.
If especially if you want to go independent and start a tabletop, that's kind of why I lean on the side of digitization and basically lowballing it. Basically being
Yeah.
like, okay, in order to get into this tabletop, 90% of the stuff is basically, either $2 or $3. Everything's basically dirt cheap. Undercut people by the ankles, and then IP build. It'll be I always thought it would be a loss, but I'm surprised how it's going for me. But you just build an IP and build a fandom. Be loyal, be honest, and be straightforward. And hope for the
And
best.
there is no reason why you should charge a lot for STLs. I mean,
Yep.
People will buy them if they find them cheap. They will buy them. They don't care.
Yep.
And they add up. $2 add up after a while.
That too. They'll be returning customers because they'll be loyal to the IP. And they'll be like, oh, this company has always, done good by me, giving free updates and stuff like that. You gotta, in order to get somebody to trust you, you need to be willing to put trust into them, especially if you're asking for money. You need to be willing to show them that, yeah, I'm going to do all these things for you. And here, look at me do all these things for you in exchange for your money. And then once that transaction, that relationship is established, you need to honor that.
Yeah, I think that model definitely works.
I hope so. Arch died again. No. Oh, there he is.
I don't know about that. Arn van Roland, Tsipis, Fem Art, Stretch Goal, or Riot?
I've got
Do
the
you wanna
concept art. I can get it to you. Okay. We got this already lined up.
It's up to you. It's up to you, Arch. Do you want me to do that?
No,
Listen,
I'm
because
serious.
that's
hold
terrible.
on. Listen. If you
Now,
make
if
a
you
fan
wanted
art,
to do a at least bikini model, sure.
one
In
without
that case,
clothing.
fine.
I have the art. I have the
Okay.
concept art already.
One without clothing. Kyle, do I need to teach you the definition of a fucking bikini?
Listen,
Are you that far gone?
it can be removed. It can be an attachment. It can be... I'm just saying it'll sell more.
Like, I'm not particularly copyright heavy. If you want to do something like that, I'm not going to stop you.
He hasn't stopped me in the past, by the way.
I have threatened to, and I probably will stop him at some point, just to point that out.
Yes, I will hook you up with all the goods.
But Kyle deserves it.
We have put an extensive amount of resources into developing Archly as a design. It's kind of great.
You've put an extensive amount of researches into eventually getting sued.
Listen, it'll have been worth it. I can die on this hill happy.
Gil Kutu Salvetti says, have you seen the Imperial Guard cat kills from Sir Dark Penguin at Cults 3D? I have not. Though I imagine they are catgirlish.
That's true. They probably are.
Almost certainly are, in fact.
Oh yeah, don't forget to check the description for those who are just joining or have joined recently to see CP's I keep butchering your name and I'm sorry for it.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
he's like,
No,
I
Okay, so
fucking
you
hate
called him Simp, and now you're just calling him CP. Like, God damn it.
child
prefer
pornography.
It's a
By the
bit
way, I
harsh.
mean, I know that most people won't have a 3D printer at home. So all these models are going to be available from my licensed merchants, which I'm not sure that we can share here because I haven't asked them. So, yeah, I don't know where I'm going with that. And I don't think I can ask them now.
And we
I
can
do
ask
have
them
a
later.
list
We can update the
of-
description later.
Yeah, okay. I'm going to ask them because I don't know if they want the quote unquote controversy. Okay, so I'll just ask them and see if they want their list added here. If you would be so nice to do it.
Well, you'll just have to fire them if they don't want it.
Well, they're actually paying me, so I can't fire them.
You can try.
I'm sure you can find a way.
You can try. No one's stopping
Where
you.
there's a whip,
There's a way. We don't want to go to war today.
Day.
But the Lord,
But the
of, the
Lord of the Lash
says,
says,
nay, nay, nay.
says, yay, yay, yay. I think that's more accurate. Yep.
It sounds a little bit more optimistic when we do that. A little bit more positivity energy, you know.
Mark James says, weekend supervisor report, 5 call-offs, 2 no-shows, I quit as soon as I find a better job. Ashamed he's having a hard time at his job. And people are being mean to him. And he doesn't appreciate it.
Sorry here, buddy. Hang in there.
Such is life. It is a harsh and cruel mistress. Not Night Bean, when will you do lore on the Iron Hands? I remember you said you want to talk about Ghost Guide Ferris for Clone Grim, then never did. Probably because GW never did. Ferris Manus and the Iron Hands is just one of those things that GW kind of shoved under the carpet and went like, you go over there. Not going to talk about you. You're silly.
Rude.
But true. But actually true.
Fair enough.
Mock shamed Bickerhammer. We got the Green Girls, the Emperor's Star Marines, which is incomparable with the Y chromosome, and everything else is gender swapped. Oh, there you go. A different 40k that is not 40k. Nolly. Recall Arch that Disney thought they were too big to fail once upon a time too. Why should GW be the same? Gird your loins, coins, and Kibbs cheeks. Gird Kibbs's cheeks.
Quite horrific, if you ask me.
An effort will be made, but success cannot be promised. I mean, Disney hasn't failed yet. They're still too big to fail, really. We'll have to wait and see what happens to them. GWs are nowhere near that scale, of course, so if they're gonna die, they're gonna die a lot easier, but these big companies, they've got a lot of money sitting in their bank accounts that they can pretty much just waste away for a very long time. Like, GW has a hefty war chest as it is, so you're gonna have to have an extended boycott to have any real hope of killing them, and I don't know if that can be organized. Thing is, boycotts are just, generally speaking, not very effective because it will require you to organize a ridiculously huge amount of people for a ridiculously long amount of time, which is very, very hard, if not almost downright impossible, basically.
Yeah, that just make you feel good when you're boycotting something. They have no effect.
Yes, it is a very difficult thing to do effectively. And honestly, the only way you can really do it is wait for a big fuck up. Big fuck up. And then leap on it. And then mercilessly beat them over the head with the huge fuck up. And then you might be able to gain some ground. There was because what you do eventually then is you build so much bad faith that people meet them with bad faith, which kind of sounds like a shitty tactic, but it's the only thing that works. Like, look, for example, at Star Trek, right? The recent one, Strange New Worlds, I still maintain is pretty decent Trek, but people will still hammer it the fuck down based on assumptions. And some of those assumptions will be absolutely correct. Like the reviews, for example, saying that the female cast members are the weakest ones. They are. But they will frame that in a very our side of the fence kind of way, shall we say, because Star Trek has, well, taken away so much of its own goodwill that people will just simply assume now that they're doing this to be malicious, enormous shit weasels, because, well, they used to do it for no other reason than to be malicious, enormous shit weasels.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the thing is, if you want change in a company, you need to be vocal, and you need to be persistent, and you need to be loud, and there needs to be thousands of others doing the exact same thing. But it's got a better effect. And
you're probably going to have to keep hitting them for quite some time. That's the thing. You're not going to get any change quickly, and you'll have to be vocal, aggressive, repeated outrage over a long period of time, and that means it has to be, I think, organic, which is why you need that massive fuck-up misstep first before you can really hope to get anything done with it. Tragic though that may invariably be.
Wow.
Petty Planter Missionary says, the song I Touch Myself by the Divinils is sexy. Divinils. England. God.
Sounds like
Why
a
do people give
copyright
themselves
claim
language?
waiting to happen.
I Touch Myself. Is that a copyright claim?
I mean, the music probably is.
Well, we shan't play I Touch Myself then, I guess.
I'm just gonna go on a limb and assume it is, for the safety of the channel.
Kyle was planning on playing I Touch Myself. Privately, I hope.
Privately, I know. In public, where everyone can see.
Privately, I pray. See. Space Monkey 0899. Here's some suggestion topless and nude. Also, will you expand outside models? Comics, maybe?
Oh,
Do you have any plans for comics?
well, I'm actually doing a set on Patreon this month, which is going to have, again, it's going to have sexy nuns, which I believe some of them were inspired by some comics, but those are things that my patrons suggest. So I don't have full creative control over what's being done there. But the topless and the nude, yeah, those are coming. Too many people have asked for them, which is nice, I suppose. So yeah.
Money.
Money is usually a good thing.
Well, it's also,
Got
you
to
know,
be.
serving. I mean, I didn't have them initially planned to do any nudes at all, but a lot of people are asking for them. So I was like, okay, let's do them. I mean, they're not going to be paid anymore for that. I'm just going to add them in the campaign for free.
Well,
very
that's
nice.
very nice.
It's not that I wanted too much motivation to do that anyway. So
You little degenerate.
I just never figured that people would want that, to be honest.
Are you kidding me? Oh, people are such degenerates. They want more than what they'll tell you because they're not going to tell you what they really want.
Well, that is the prostitute's problem, to determine the fetish of the customer. Scarfy the Strange says, I think feminine just want to be in anything they consider a man's club, including gross out humor like WAP. Yes, I mean that is the point of it being a power play. They see you enjoying a thing, and so they want to have that thing now. Whether they actually give a shit about the thing is immaterial, and usually they don't give a shit about the thing.
And they'll follow
Like,
you, too.
most women don't give a fuck about 40k. Like, it's a very male hobby. Those women who do give a fuck about it usually give a fuck about it because of what it is, and will very rarely go like, yes, this is cool, but could we change most of it? Like, no.
Could we... I like 40k, but I think that 40k should stop being 40k and that we should change it into something that isn't 40k.
Yes,
That's always their argument.
That is usually the wokest argument, and that is usually how you know that they're full of shit. Like, yes, I really like this thing, except could we perhaps? No, we couldn't. We couldn't perhaps anything. You like it or you don't. Slam the door shut. Yell at them as they leave. Ajano Zizek says, second book, Dune Messiah got me questioning my sobriety at the time of reading. That is something that Dune might do to you on multiple occasions. Dune, again, like, I'm not going to tell anyone, but I'm not going to warn anyone away from reading the Dune series as a whole. I'm just saying, like, you might, I would probably honestly stop at the end of Arrakis, because, like, you've experienced most of the cool shit, you know, you got what you came for, and now, weird shit is going to happen, so, gird your loins and pray and beg.
It's up to you whether you want to continue going. I don't remember where I stopped. I think it was the Children of Dune. The one with his kids. I can't remember 100%. Can't remember 100%. It's the one with the Children of Dune. Yeah, it's kids. Because they have, like, powers and stuff, if I remember right.
I can't imagine you remember right.
It's been such a long time. I remember the sci-fi miniseries as well. You know, I actually liked that. I didn't like the Children of Dune sequel that covered the next book, but I did like the first Dune miniseries in sci-fi. Even though it was, a little cheap on the budget, but it was kind of cool. It was better than the 1984 movie.
Nah, the movie's great. The Drizzly says, Marvel does Warhammer Comics, Warhammer MCU movie when the Black Islam trans gender queer god emperors preaches woke power to make the chaos gods of white fragility go away. Let's hope it doesn't get that far, but if it does, well, at least it'll be very popular. Dark Innovator, apparently Lord Arch, rumors are that 10th edition will see the return of 2 more Loyalist Primarchs to the 40k timeline. Why not? I mean, they sold well the first time.
Nobody's ever really gone. See, I don't know. Maybe people like that in Warhammer, but I always thought that, like, when a character dies, like, they should just sort of stay dead and the story should progress. I always hated that about Star Wars, too. It's like, oh, everyone just comes back to life. I know some of them aren't dead, but, like,
yeah,
I feel like they're going to just keep reviving stuff because nobody's ever really gone.
Well, Kyle, your uncomfortable hatred of constantly resurrecting people is clearly wrong.
Apparently. I mean, it makes money, I guess.
Yes, you may speak now, Sissy.
No, I was just going to say that they're bringing quite a lot of Primarchs, and I mean, I never really liked how they brought Gilliman back.
You mean they just brought him back because there was MacGuffin?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I hate Primary Space Marines.
Yes, everyone should.
Them.
Anyone who doesn't is a weirdo and needs to be put inside of the hole in the ground and never retrieved. Like, it really is that simple. Like, you like Primary Space Marines? Okay, get in the meat grinder.
I mean, what they did with the Primary Space Marines, I have my estimation is that they just wanted to change the scale, and they couldn't. I mean, because the industry is pushing for larger and larger miniatures due to technology changing and stuff, and they just wanted to change the scale. And for some reason, they inserted it into the lore, and there was no reason to do that.
No, I mean, you can justify selling new Marines then, while also selling the old ones.
Well, but they could have done that anyway. I mean, they could have just introduced new sculpts, call them Space Marines, with I mean, this has happened in the past. I mean, the second edition metal Space Marines, they were smaller than the current firstborn plastic Space Marines. Just change the scale. They're not going to complain. They get new miniatures.
The problem is then you're just reselling the Space Marines. And what they wanted was to resell the Space Marines twice, which is what they're doing now, where they're still selling the regular Space Marines and like 30 different flavors of Primaris Marines.
Yeah, but that is making the codex unreadable. I mean, the amount of bloat in the Space Marine codex right now is ridiculous. I mean,
the amount of product, you mean?
Yeah, well, you could put it this way, but anybody who picks it up today, like let's say a kid 16 years old picks up the Space Marine Codex today, they're not going to understand why there's 4 types of Space Marine ancients in there.
They're probably not, but I am pretty sure the move was made almost exclusively for the old guard to try to get them to rebuy the Space Marines like twice over, and they probably succeeded. Eventually, the old Space Marines will be shuffled unceremoniously out of the way. Like, all of them will fall to chaos simultaneously or something very stupid. But GW doesn't want to do that because they don't want to invalidate everyone's armies. Well, they want to, but
yeah, maybe that's why they're bringing. Maybe that's why they're bringing Horus Heresy to keep the firstborn Space Marines there, something like that.
Maybe, but it's not like they give a shit about that either. Like, I hate the fact that they've introduced the B keys to 40k, and that's not 40k, 30k, and that's just the standard Space Marine now. It's like, oh yes, sure. Like, you don't even read your own lore anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, reading's hard. Especially when you're, a paid intern and you're supposed to write this shit up. It's like, all right, just make it up, I guess. I don't fucking care.
The glorious 8th Legion Ultramarines. Andrew Jackson says, have any of you read The War That Ended Peace? If so, what are your thoughts? Sadly, I have not. That wrote in 1914, The War That Ended Peace. Interesting title.
I mean, there was no peace before then, though. I don't want to point that out.
There was no peace before 1914.
Well, there was lots of wars. In fact, there was wars not that long ago. True.
Yeah, but not really a whole lot of European ones. Like the previous one was only the Franco-Prussian War of what, 18 something?
Arch, what about the Crimean? A lot of
Nobody cares.
Europeans died in that one.
Yeah, that was like 1870. That was the only war that counted. Like fucking Crimea. Slav on Slav violence is not warfare.
Yeah, but I'm pretty sure regular Europeans died, not Slavs. Just
Yeah, but that's for shits and giggles. Like they'll go over there and be like, heh.
I think Barge is just a girl in a man's body. Now, War of 1914, End of Peace. I did
don't
not
have to
get a
tell you
board
what
game.
happened in 1914, did I?
Game.
Game? Book!
Oh, it's a book. I was like looking for a board game. I can't find nothing. The
Chat.
War That Ended Peace. Why would they do that? Wait. What about the other wars that ended peace? It's like, that one doesn't count.
I mean, I guess they're pointing to the Versailles Treaty being basically, as they put it, a 40-year ceasefire.
The Germans were cheaping out, though. They could have paid that back. Fucking ass bitches.
Lucky Kiwi asks, Fem Arch Body Pillow when you give me a lot of money. Nolly, have you and Kibbs heard about Wrath of Kings game? I have not. Like, there are so many games.
Oh my god, I instinctively opened that up in multiple tabs in advance.
That's semantic fantasy Warhammer
Ah.
thing, isn't it?
No, I'm pretty sure Wrath of Kings isn't. Like, it doesn't look like it. It's got, like,
Wrath of
fish
Kings.
people. Yeah. It's got,
okay.
like,
I think I know
Chinese
what you're talking
damn
about.
it's got fat pig people. Wait. Like
Okay,
that.
it's cool
And
me or
furries.
not. Okay.
And furry demons, vampires.
Well, furries are always a big hit among certain elements of the online community.
And then Chinese
They've
demons.
got the one of their factions has the Triforce as their emblem. That is always good. They live underwater. We do need more aquatic factions. That is true.
What if they did? What if they're air water?
Mark Ashamed says Freedom Tunes did a funny cartoon on the worker shortage at YouTube. I might have to look that up later then. Maybe. Maybe. Mark James says, bad faith, you mean like Deactivision Blizzard? Kinda. Just approach all of their releases and their things with a certain degree of disgust and general dislike. Boag says, as promised, 100 tacos. Thank you very much. Book. Your tacos have been received, even if they too are a dubious gesture.
I'm not sure, but this looks pretty dead. At least the most recent update I clicked on was from 2017.
Yeah, you mean the Wrath of Kings?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool me or not. These guys, they're just pumping out games.
It was like a pump and dump, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and then like, next. Sometimes you just gotta pump and dump. I don't know, man.
Cruel and unusual.
Hey, I'm not the one who made this.
Nice miniatures, though.
Yeah, look neat.
All right, we've gotten through the super chats. If the thing will finish scrolling, which is going to take a while. YouTube is YouTube, and that's a shame. This would be a good time to insert an ad. I'm getting sick of this pop-up YouTube. It seems to happen more and more frequently. All right, there we are. All right, I'll give it like 5 minutes for anyone to ask any questions they might have in the chat of our little creator here. So go ahead and raise any topics you might have, and then we'll begin wrapping up. Until then, Kyle, just make kibbing noises, I guess, at the audience.
So, did you know Greece is a country that's borders are very small? Did you know they wanted their borders to be bigger, actually, following World War One? They're like, yeah, we'll get like Constantinople and Asia Minor. And then did you know that the Entente was like, no. And then Turkey beat the crap out of Greek. I'm sorry. Then they...
Oh, it was with the Ottoman Empire, not Turkey.
Well, after World War One, it was Turkey.
Yeah, yeah.
And then they deported a bunch of Greekaboos out of Asia Minor, which caused the Greek economy to go, whoa, and explode a little. In a negative way.
As usual.
And Greece never really recovered from that. That is a very,
That's actually not true.
simple...
We did recover from that.
What? Okay, well, Italy made sure that they fixed that again, didn't they? It's like, that's mean we starved to death when that happened. It's true. Oh. Look at that. See, I know more about Greeks than Greeks do. I'm just kidding. Greece is a cool country. They have a cool history, cool culture. Just a bit sad, though, in modern times.
Yeah, it's very sad.
What, March? Are we gonna say the N-word? The thing is, chat, you're terrible asking questions, because I'm better. So, next up, we have naked minis, right? That's what we can expect next from you.
Definitely, yeah.
Now, there might be a problem, if you want to be on the ArchCast with that one. Might need to put some censor bars into the promo material.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we might be in a bit of a pickle. Actually, no, let me rephrase that. Actually, no, I'll keep the we part. Otherwise, Arch will say something mean again. Does Tsipis recommend using his tribe on MMF or Patreon?
Oh, I would definitely. Here's the thing: Tribes is great, but there's no way to properly interact with the creator. That's the only problem they have right now. But as far as I know, they are trying to fix it. They're trying to integrate Discord with Tribes. But I am personally going to try to focus more on Tribes simply because my mini factory is very good at supporting us. So I got to put my trust where I'm seeing trust. So I can't recommend Patreon after what they did to Carl.
Uh-oh, did we lose Barch?
Oh.
Keep going.
Did we? Yeah, that was my entire point, really. I mean, I'm still a bit sore about what they did to Carl.
Who's Carl?
Benjamin. Sargon.
Oh, Patreon. Oh my god.
Yeah.
I was like, Carl.
Have you forgotten already?
Actually, I didn't really know Carl or Carl Benjamin or Sargon as he was. I met him from Arch, but I didn't really know who he was. And I was like, okay, he seemed like a British dude doing British stuff, And then later on, Arch came out publicly doing a collab with him, and then I had some people on my team get mad at me over it. And I'm like, what is happening?
Why? Because of Sargon?
Mm-hmm. That's when, back in the olden days, Kibbs was like, I'm going to have a team of people that are going to join us we're not going to worry about our views or opinions. We'll just work on a game. That was a mistake.
Right, okay.
Because some people, they wanted me to draw a line in the sand, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. You got to be careful who you work with. Welcome back.
Kyle is virtue signaling again. Shoot him.
Not virtue signaling. I'm talking about all the pain and misery you caused me.
I caused you no pain and misery.
Archie, I only do that sometimes when I feel
I'm the only reason you can eat still.
Hey, I'm partially responsible for my own food, too. I have to cook it after all.
Ah, God. 2 o'clock, so my internet company just joins the plug. That's how life is in the middle of the forest.
Awfully cancerous. All right, let's see. In 1 and 2 Balkan Wars, Greece kicked ass. That's true, they did for a bit. They were like, we was Greece. That's also why they got overconfident when they went to war with Turkey. Like, yeah, we're going to teach them. And that didn't work out so Goddamn Twiki. All right. Oh, you have a super, by the way. You can read that one.
I know. My shamed Firestorm Armada was interesting, but was it? Is that true?
Wait, that's not the super I'm seeing. Get to the next one.
That's haven't gotten to. God, calm down. I skip his. I didn't see it.
Oh no.
And Wargame 341. What I love about Greece, besides its history, is its strong heavy metal scene. Up the horns. Good. I imagine they have a strong heavy metal history now. Probably screaming at the government.
People are
I
asking.
hope they're screaming at the government.
Parch, why are you back on Kib's show? Yeah, welcome to Kibcast. Sounds like some sort of internet company. Like Kibcast. It works sometimes. That's our motto.
Does CP recommend using his tribe on MMF or Patreon?
I got that when you were gone.
Yeah, we answered that one. Yeah.
Okay, Kyle. If you butt in on my job one more time, I'm firing you.
You weren't here to do your job. You failed. And so I had to step up.
It's intentional. I chose not to.
Also,
A wizard is never late.
just a reminder, chat. In the description are the minis. I'm saying it again. I normally post the link, but the link is so big. Like, this hyperlink is... It's goddamn
it's kind of messy.
massive.
Yeah.
It's literally... It
Yeah.
reaches the cap for how much letters you can have in YouTube's comment. It's cancer. Is CP going to do sexy fish people? That look kind of like Down.
Sexy feast people. I mean, I don't know how to even start doing that.
Imagine,
How would that look like?
Listen, I'm saying fish people for legality reasons. But if they were to look
Oh,
mermaid,
all right. Okay. I got it. Yeah. Okay. I suppose I have to at some point.
Big boobed ones.
Yeah.
Listen,
It's the only way that I could find myself playing that army.
it gives you a motivation to colonize them.
Yeah, that's true.
And sexy
I've seen
fish
some
people are
art
obviously
going
mermaid.
around with sexy feast people, and it looks pretty nice, actually.
You wouldn't expect a fish person to be sexy.
Yeah, but they're not really fish people, are they? Are they?
Not really. They're just
I mean-
blue. They're literally people that
Yeah.
are colored blue.
Yeah, they have legs and arms and everything. So.
And they've got little assholes on their foreheads too.
They got little assholes.
Yeah.
Who thought that was a good idea, by the way? Like, I'm sorry, but from a design standpoint, I hate the forehead thing. It's like, instead of a nose, we put a butthole in their fucking forehead. It's like, okay, like, why, though?
Yeah.
It's like a weird triple butt crack or something. I don't even know.
Chat is telling Kibs that there are ways to shorten links. Yes, for competent people there are, but we have a Kib.
All right, Arch, how do you do it, Mr. Smirty Pants?
You go to one of those pages that tell you that it shortens your URL and it'll give you money for it and shit. There you go.
It'll give you money for it and shit. Feels like Barch doesn't really know what he's talking about. Shit. What do you got?
It's pretty simple, clearly. Right. We could start talking about Jurassic World Dominions.
Oh God. I've watched enough reviews about it to know to avoid it like the plague. Out of morbid curiosity, if anything else.
But that would be terrible. Right, so we'll wrap it up now. Just check Streamlabs. Yep, we're caught up. Everything is lovely-dovely. So,
Wait, one more question.
thank you.
Dough Girl slipped in one word there, look.
Read it then, you monkey.
What Dough Girl says, what is the next project you are thinking after Pinup Core, TP?
Okay, it's going to be. Let me see if I can phrase this correctly. It's going to be something like a print-to-play board game that is going to be sort of a crusade that takes place in space, I suppose.
Print
I
to
think
play board game about a crusade that takes place in space.
that's as much as I can say. I think I've said enough.
Yep, understandable. You don't want to spoil.
Yeah, of course.
Well, there we are then. So until next time and till tomorrow's RP, thank you all very much for watching and thank you for your generous super chats. And we'll see you all again next week. Till then, have a good day.